Hello. Hello, hello. Do you think it's safe to take AMZ off the tombstone pick? Probably yeah, because I mean, the argument was that I killed it, and then they kind of unkilled it. Well, they killed it for Mythic Plus, but importantly, it had nothing to do with me. It's real good in Raid. Wasn't an argument. Alright, well stay mad then. You know what I mean? I'm eating a cheese stick right now. Photoshop A-bomb limb on top of it. Wait, how am I responsible for A-bomb limb? That doesn't even make sense. Just embrace the bit. Alright. Hi, Ella. How was hockey today? It was good. Feeling great. Max, you gotta stop shrimping. I'm not shrimping right now. I'm fully laid back. Shrimping would be like, see, like this, but then my back is hunched, like on some JB shit, like this. Like you're sitting like you're gaming like that, right? That's shrimp. I'm laid the fuck back. I'm like I'm like this. This is me. I got that recline going. What exploded in that room? We got a bark box yesterday. So the dogs just like rip some toys apart. Reptar's so big now. Is he? I don't know when the last time you saw him was. Reptar. Come here, buddy. Is he in here? He's not in here. Reptar. That's not you, by the way. You're not Reptar. You're cute, though. Reptar isn't this big. Hey, girly. Yeah, there's Reptar. Hi, Ella. Ella's such a good dog. All right. That's a strong-ass mountain man beard. Did you chop some wood with your hands today? I didn't. This beard, I actually cut it a little bit a while ago. It has grown mostly back, though. My hair is really long, like my actual hair. I got like a... When I wake up in the morning and I just like put my hand through it, I got like a full-on fro. It's crazy. Max, I've been catching up on the Potty C, and you guys were talking about the optional boss and past optional bosses. Y'all didn't mention that Celestial boss in Ulduar. Yeah, just a lot of stuff from like Wrath and before that is just like ancient as fuck, so it's really hard to relate. Like honestly, most things even you could make some mop arguments, but most things like pre-WoD, it's just like it's so long ago, and rating in the game was so different that it's you usually just are talking about something different. Max, will you react to Preach's video about SCO? I didn't even know that existed. What's the context? It wasn't about SCO, it was about method in itself. It's about the first method split. It's about the Serenity split. Oh shit, that sounds really interesting. Actually, it talks about method and serenity. I mean, dude, I would just want to watch that video in general because, I mean, we weren't going for world first at that time, but that was like a huge deal. Like method was like so dominant, and then they just like, I mean, they didn't even split. Like all of method went to serenity, except for like, I think it was like Roger, Sko, and like a couple other people, and then basically method kept like their officer corps and recruited an entire guild called Rapid Eye Movement. And then that's where like Scripe came from, and I don't know how many other players are still in Echo from Rapid Eye Movement. Actually, I don't know the answer to that. Matt, but yeah, reacting to that sounds really cool. Let's do that, sure. Max, are you guys hyped? Because you could sweep the whole add-on. I think you mean expansion. I mean, I'm hyped to just do the race, but that does, like, personally, maybe it'll totally change if like we win and then it matters to me. But like right now, it doesn't. I'm not like more motivated for this race because we could be the first guild to sweep an entire expansion. I just don't think it. It's just it doesn't. It feels like a fake stat. Because guilds have won 3 times in a row before, have won 4 times in a row before, just not in an entire expansion. There's a potentially good Haruma Red video. We put it in We Steal. Oh, another thing too is Shroud texted me right before the stream started, and he said, "Yo, are you playing Diablo Season 9 tomorrow?" And I didn't even know Diablo had a new season starting tomorrow. So what I'm probably going to do before the end of this stream is just look into this season and see if it looks cool, and then decide if I want to play it tomorrow morning. Max, did you move? No. It looks like a snooze fest. And then you said I'm playing a Hydra Sork. It looks bad, but I'm playing it. I mean, it just depends. I could see, like, I think what would maybe attract me to play a new season of Diablo is like a brand new build that like looks really cool. A bunch of different synergies that I haven't used before. So like Hydra Sork means like you'd be using conjurations, and conjurations have been like famously like really bad. So that sounds something that could be pretty fun. I could be down for some new builds. I also liked that new class. I'd maybe play that again. Tell Shroud that Summon Druid still ain't it. He can't be saved, bro. He is who he is, you know? He's gonna fuck. I've tricked myself before into thinking he's not. He's just gonna do it. And that's okay. Max, any plans to make more draft style content? That shit always went hard. Watch that build a class where Growl made a mage like 3 times. That, you know what? Those were fucking banger streams and YouTube videos. We could do those again. I kind of stopped doing them because I couldn't be a part of it. But I can do the I can do it again and just like moderate it. Like I can have all those people on to do this content, and then like kind of react as a viewer. But like trying to draft as well was very tilting, because like there were a couple, I didn't think I should have won all of them, but there's a couple of ones where I was like, I definitely felt like I had a sick draft, and it was just because like you're the streamer. It's just like chat's like, haha, streamer, like we're not voting for you. That was just tilting. So like, but that's okay. I just don't have to be involved with it. I can do it, but not be a drafter. Those were really fun though. Max, with the Echo split, I wouldn't call it an Echo split. Do you guys think the upcoming raises will be easier? No. The answer to your question is no. Hey, little pup, when is the Race to World last? I probably won't do another Race to World last until the end of this expansion, unfortunately. There's a potential that I could do it in this upcoming raid. It kind of just depends on how prepared we are and what's going on. But usually the night before we start progression, I don't want to be like farming content. I usually have something to do. But I don't know. We feel like insanely prepared for this upcoming race right now. Like really, really prepared. We took testing a lot more seriously this time. We haven't done Mythic yet, but like we've put in a lot more work on like normal and heroic so far. Watch the new clickbaity dogshit effortless rumor red video. That is one hell of a description. I'm assuming you hated the video. This one? Oh, wait, 1 second. I have to cancel a lot of tabs here. All right, here we go. Top 10 abilities that can never return. Yeah, this just... Yeah, it doesn't seem like this would be super great. This is on the back burner. I didn't know Preach made a video about the Method and Serenity split. And Sko reacting to it is very interesting. Because, like, Sko's going to have more information about that situation than Preach will, but also Sko's biased, right? Like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, the Method Serenity split, a lot of that was people not fucking with Sko, right? Like, hopefully, you know what I mean? So Sko obviously is gonna, you know, this is nothing against Sko. This is just extremely obvious. Like he's obviously biased. How that went down. So that could be interesting. I don't know if I'd want to watch the Preach one natty and then watch the Sko one. I feel like the Sko one could be. I think that's probably the way to do it. The Max cameo is great in the Preach video. Bro, what you got? Why would I be in that video? It doesn't even make any sense. I was just a little pup back then when that happened. Then Preach did a react to Sko reacting. Someone said Preach also is biased because he was in Method. He wasn't in Method, right? He was Preach was not a raiding member of Method when that guild split. He was a casual in the guild, correct? I mean, that's, you know, as far as what, like, the only reason I am pointing that out is I said Sko's reaction, you have to understand he's coming from a place of bias. Then you're like, well, Preach would be biased too. It's like, I mean, having a guild split, and if you've ever talked to anyone from Serenity, Sko was a big reason why. That level of bias is totally different than someone who happened to be a casual in the guild at the time. You know what I mean? He was fully in Method. Wait, Preach was a raiding member of Method when Serenity split? Not like years before that happened? I actually didn't know that. I did not know that, if that's true. Apologies for if that's actually true. Correct. I mean, I'm sure he talks about it in the video. I thought he was a raider in Method, like, actually an extremely long time ago. No, he was in Method during Ulduar and Dragon Soul. Oh, dude, why are you guys making shit up? Y'all are just fucking lying. Hello, sir. Do you plan on trying Fellowship out when it comes out? Yeah, sure. That sounds fun. If it's a good game. I didn't play the last playtest because it happened to come out at like the absolute worst possible time for me. I had no ability to actually play. Hope it's good though. Hope every game that is trying to make content that should appeal to me is good. You know what I mean? Did Echo just grab half of Sweden to their roster or what? Oh, is there a is Echo Twitter poppin'? I have that shit have that shit muted, so I don't normally see. So I learn from you guys. Let's see. Who do they got? What's going on here? Moving from League and Valorant into World of Warcraft. Welcome to our new social media manager. Okay. I thought that was a player. I was like, that's interesting. But I don't know who that is. Who's going? Last but not least, we're rounding out the growing Swedish contingent in Echo. Welcome this guy to the raid roster, Jockey. What's up, Jockey? Swedish Hunter, Charmy. Dude, what did they just recruit this from like an all Swedish guild or something? Or how many Swedes do they have? We have a decent amount. I think we have like 6. I mean, it sounds like they've recruited 6 just within the last couple weeks or something. I think Leggett disbanded. Dude, the few times a guild has disbanded and you've been able to like rummage through all their rummage, is that the way? Through all their players and like take the best ones. You always get your hopes up, and then there's usually not a lot of players in really any guild that are good enough, but you just hope a few pan out. Like I forget which guild it was died, and we picked up like their 3 best players, and just all 3 of them fucking were so not at this level, and that was so disappointing. But you just don't know until they come here, because like all you hear is they're like, you ask other people that raided with them, and they're like, yo, this dude owns, this guy's great. But their level of great, what is great in a guild that, you know, isn't as good is a lower level, and you just can't tell how good great from another guild will fit into your guild. That's happened to us like a couple times. But I mean, you always take the chance, right? Like if a guild in the top 20 world disbands and you have the opportunity to recruit one of their 2 best players and you have any kind of need to make their classes work, you usually always try it. It's just like the hit rate is very low. Okay. I guess we'll just watch this preach then. Yeah. Well, actually, was there any like WoW news since oh wait, we tested the raid. I guess we could do that. Let's do a quick little, I'll even put it in my title. Looking at raid testing. So you guys can just get a visual, not long at all, not deep diving, just like giving you a visual of every of all the bosses. Which I'm sure there are public testing VODs of them. I haven't looked that up yet, but we'll find it. Looking at raid testing and then reacting to method video. Sure. Not long equals 3 hours later. I mean, hey. If it ends up being... longer, hopefully that means the content is good. I usually have a pretty good eye for content. Like if I'm doing any content and I'm rambling a lot and it looks like it could go longer and I see the chat isn't engaged and I'm just feeling like, hey, this content isn't awesome, people aren't really into this, I usually am self-aware enough to like move on or instantly end my stream. One of the two. You know, hopefully you've come to expect that I'm not going to string you along for some bullshit content outside of maybe some sponsored streams, getting paid for that. I don't regret that either. But you know, but usually if it's interesting, I'll dive a little deeper, hopefully. Sko did a reaction. Oh wait, what is this Reddit thread? Despite Blizzard's claim of making Death Grip a raid buff and assigning and designing the raid around the idea of it being a raid buff, PTR testers have already found and noticed via testing and reading the fight design that Death Grip will find 0 usefulness in the entire 8-boss raid. Ooh, that's... So, on the last boss, I would agree with you that I don't think... First of all, I'm not making the argument that Death Grip should be a good raid buff, just right off the bat. I'm not arguing for Blizzard. I may take some devil's advocate here a couple times, but I am not of the opinion that that is currently a good solution. I'm on your side. But there's definitely some Death Grips in the raid that seem decent. In the intermission on Nexus King, like the ad phase, I imagine in Mythic those ads are going to spawn in a way where you might want some grips. The last boss, you just 100%. Not only are you going to almost certainly need grips on Mythic, I think you're going to need grips on both sides of P2. Which would require not only ADK but 2. Now, that doesn't solve the issue, the biggest underlying issue, which is that if they're going to make Death Grip a raid buff, there's a spec of Death Knight that's twice as good as that, or more, if you include Mass Grip, than the other two. That's like my current biggest issue with, like, okay, for example, right now, if Blizzard just made a tweet, this is where I think people are getting it wrong. If Blizzard made a tweet right now that was like, we hear you guys, DKs, you guys get a haste buff for the raid. Everyone gets more haste when a DK's in the raid. I feel like the response would be like, very positive. Finally, Blizzard gets it. Like, they totally understand. They're hearing our cries. But it doesn't change fucking anything. Because if you're going to still bring that 2% haste buff, it's still going to be a blood DK, like 9 out of 10 times. Like, again, any class could randomly be tuned so good that you bring a DPS DK, whatever. So it's not for sure. But again, that's kind of the issue. You don't want to have to rely on that. It'd be the same thing as Enhance, which they fixed by giving them Sky Fury and making all of them give Wind Fury, right? That's the only way they could have fixed it. If they give DKs a raid buff that isn't DK, that isn't Death Grip right now, none of the problem is solved. You're still going to want DKs on the end boss. What is the spoiler here? Let's see. Okay, so they added some context. Plexus Sentinel is first boss, doesn't matter anyway. 0 ads across in the fight across all fights. Grip is not useful. Soulbinder, when the ads are broken by the lines in the cages, they are grip immune. If their channel goes off, they can be gripped, but usually move and have an aggro table. Yeah, so on Soulbinder, which we'll go into in a second, it's kind of like Lihivam, but like a bit easier to understand. It's also earlier in the raid, right? It's not a wing end boss. You don't know if they're not going to be grippable on Mythic or when they come out. They change whether ads are grippable or not grippable all the time. Same thing with CC ability. And just in general, grip won't matter in this fight because the way it's going to work really is you're going to... you're probably just going to break the ones you don't want to kill or kill them early, and then you're going to move the boss on top of the ones that are spawning. So because you can do that, grip just isn't super useful. Forge Weaver. Okay, so Forge Weaver, it could definitely matter that you have grip in Mythic. So I could explain it to you when I show you the fight later. But there's a... Okay, so like how you have to do the intermission, which a lot of people didn't do on their public heroic testing, is you want like those ads to soak the energy on Mythic. And on Mythic, you can't kill any of the collectors in the intermission. You need the ads to be in the right spot at the right time. And it's possible that without grip, you actually can't do that. But again, that's going to be a tank. So if that's the case, and it's possible you could move them in time without grip. But saying grip is useless, there's just, until you see it on Mythic, that's just simply, you just don't know the answer to that. Soul Hunters, no ads at all in any difficulty, yes. Fractalist, no ads at all in any difficulty. Nexus King, there are ads on the platform you teleport to, however, they're already grouped together. Again, on Mythic, you have no idea if that's going to be true, but yeah. And the last boss, important to put here, the last boss isn't like a normal last boss where it's really hard to understand the boss. It's actually, like, I think pretty easy to, like, I'm not going to do this, but I could right now go on a raid plan and basically describe to you how the entire fight on Mythic, at least as it is described in the Dungeon Journal right now, will play out. Why that's significant, if you ask me to do that on Ansarek or Gallywix, or, I mean, especially Gallywix, but like Ansarek or Fyrak, there's so many open-ended questions about how things would have worked. I wouldn't have been able to do that with much accuracy. But this fight specifically is just very clear in the Dungeon Journal how it works. Because of that, I feel like you could put that on here, and while it is possible you don't need grips in the second intermission, I just think there's just absolutely no way, especially with how there isn't a lot of stuff on other ones. But let's see their stuff. Trash. Multiple trash. No, trash doesn't matter. Plexus, which may use a grip on Mythic. Oh yeah, grip on the first boss on Mythic could be relevant. If the wall ever hits those ads, everyone dies. So you would need to grip them away from it. Again, first boss though. The Patchwork boss feels insanely undertuned. Huh? Do you mean Fractalus? On Heroic? I mean, okay, so you know on Mythic there's a third wall type that does over 1 million damage per second to every player in your raid for each one broken, and you could have to break like 2 or 3 at a time. And also it's like testing tuning, which is intentionally easier because they want you to see the entire fight, right? It's the purpose of testing. I mean, I imagine most people's Fractalist testing was really bad because, especially, it's really ironic in an era that where they are working on removing add-ons, even though they haven't done this yet. That's a process that will take years. It's not something... Oh, okay, we're barking. Stop that. Even though it's a process that is going to take place over a long period of time, Fractalist is like the most weak aura assignable boss ever. Like, if they make it a private aura or not, you're just going to like assign where everyone goes. You're going to see the best way to deal with walls, and basically you as a player are going to be hitting this rock guy, and then you're going to have a weak aura pop up that says stand in whatever marker or whatever lane, however you make it work. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no way that isn't completely all set in stone. So I would say it's going to... Now, that might not be an annoying weak aura boss, for example. Like, I think when people think of weak aura bosses, they think of ones where they've had a very negative interaction with weak auras, but there are fights where you get assigned things constantly with weak auras that aren't frustrating, right? Those are not the same thing, but... Fractalist wasn't that bad without add-ons. You just have one spot as a safe spot and the 5 people spread, at least in Heroic. Different story in Mythic. There's only 4 people in Heroic, unless you mean the breaks, which there was also more than 5. I don't know where you got the 5 number from, but... Oh, maybe the size of your raid changed that. Actually, in Heroic, that would make sense with, like, flex difficulty. We didn't change our size of our raid at all on that. Nexus King looked wild. Bro, Nexus King is sick. I really hope there's a public test VOD that shows the whole fight. I imagine there is. It was not difficult to get to the end of the fight. But anyways, let's actually start that. So where can I find this? Where is... So there's 2 things we need to look at. So there's the Heroic testing on Friday. They canceled the Heroic testing of the first 3 bosses, but I can show you it if anyone publicly tested normal. But the 4 Heroic bosses, I think, are quite interesting. Kalamazzi has a video. So usually what takes a lot of time here is I have to find the best pull, which can take some time, but hopefully that's all right. Let's see, YouTube Kalamazzi. Let's just do Kalamazzi. ID saw the end of Nexus King. Okay, we might have to jump around then. Okay, so... Okay, he only has Heroic, so we're going to have to find someone else for normal anyway. Oh, no, he did a normal clear. Okay, so we can show everything. Did he not do Heroic of Forge Master? He did not. Okay, so we're going to have to... Okay, who's the ID tester guy? Wait, Preheat has our whole Heroic VOD. Oh, Telegon? Okay. Did you guys get to the end of Nexus King? Which one is it, actually? I mean, maybe the 6-hour one, but... W Preheat. Okay. Okay, so we're starting with Forge Master. Forge Weaver. Oh, it's Forge Weaver, isn't it? On Heroic Super Basic... Oh, no, this is... Okay, let's see if they actually did the intermission right. Because it'd be very easy to just, like, kill the stuff in the intermission, and then... let me go to the end of their hour here, so maybe they have a good pull. That's Soul Hunters. Looks like they killed it, and then chilled here for a while. Yeah. Oh, Preheat's dead. That's so unfortunate. If this is the pull we're going to look at. Bro, he's dead for so long, too. Okay. Let's look at this. Alright, so, Forge Weaver. He has, like, these 3 collector guys. They're relevant in each phase. There's ads that spawn based on, and they spawn on players. So like here on Heroic, you're putting them under the boss. Current, and they move towards a collector, and you just have to kill them before they get there. On Mythic, there's a tag that these ads within like range of the boss, basically. We don't know if this is going to happen until Mythic testing, because they all could also change their mind too. But currently, you can't like place these on the boss. You'd have to place them off the boss, which is there's a lot of different ways to deal with them. But like that could potentially be not very fun, honestly. Like you could do it, you can do anything, right? But it would just be so there's a big ad that spawns in P1 called the Arcane Echo, and that just can't be within range of the boss, or else they both take very little damage, or maybe it's just this ad that takes very little damage. Priority target has to be killed. Obviously, it died pretty fast here on Heroic. You can imagine on Mythic, this thing's going to be pretty chunky, and if you haven't already figured it out, this is like a major element of the fight, and that's before I even get into the intermission. This great 2-target, great dot class boss, like this is a fight. It's kind of funny because Styx was also like a huge dot boss, and that was also 4th in the raid. But like it's another tier where it looks like they're pretty clearly trying to play into certain damage niches and making sure they're all included. More specifically in this raid, like dotting and like killing things really spread out from ranged. So we're still in P1. Now there's going to spawn another Arcane Echo. Unfortunately, Preet's dead. So it's going to spawn the intermission here in a second. Hopefully we get a good POV. Okay, so the boss goes to the middle. You're no longer killing the boss, and now you have to kill these 3 collectors. In Heroic, you actually kill them, and you don't care about killing them at the same time. When they hit 100 energy, they're going to like do a bunch of raid damage if they channel into this middle pylon that you'll see in a second. Oh my god, he has his death window. Oh my god, he's opening his fucking auras. Please close that. Okay. This might be the worst POV of all time. I'm sorry. Okay, so these 2 attendants spawn. So let me explain how this is going to play in Mythic, because I think this is going to be super relevant. On Heroic, you kind of just like kill the one with the highest energy, and then that's like pretty basic. You can kind of evenly cleave them, but like a way a lot of people probably did it is you just like made sure the one that was going to hit 100 energy died first, and then you were chilling. And then you could just like cleave down these attendants. They hit the tank really hard. But the way you have to do this fight on Mythic is if you kill an Arcane Collector, these little pillars on the end, this is like the intermission phase, right? They are going to like 3 seconds later blow up for 10 million every couple seconds, and then that's basically you die. You could probably live one of those going off, but not 2. So the Mythic solution to this is you have to kill all 3 Arcane Collectors at the same time. So you're probably asking, if you did this like a basic way in normal, is like, well, how do you like make them not kill the whole raid at 100 energy? These attendants, basically, let me see if I can show you it. When these things hit 100 energy, so it's probably this one right here, I think, 49%, you're going to see this thing channel into the middle. But they pull an attendant to it, which is smart. So this attendant is now going to take this Arcane Convergence. See this attendant right here? It's going to do a beam, and it's going to do percentage damage to the attendant every tick. So the attendant is just getting owned by this pylon. So the way you do the intermission is like the tanks have 3 of them out at once. They'll probably have higher energy. And you're going to have to like alternate. That's going to be a tank job to basically make sure the raid doesn't get one shot. And you as a raid have to kill all 3 of these at the same time. So again, if you're a little ahead of me here, you can imagine that dot classes, Moonkins, things that can do damage to 3 yards that are all like 40 yards from the middle basically are going to be absolutely fucking crazy for this phase compared to like maybe someone who's just going to do damage to 1 target or cleave a second one on top of it. So very comp specific for this exact boss, which is kind of fun. But like can obviously be heavily class stacked. And I think you saw, it's early in the raid, so it's probably not as impactful, but I think it's interesting to think about the way One Armed Bandit played out, which again, one of the rarest bosses in WoW history, where the Race to World first kill counts were like half of or less than people's kills even late into farm. Because one of the reasons why is it required guilds to class stack daughters for the first time in like 4 years, so they don't really have that prepared. And I think you had less skilled players playing alts, and that just tanks your progression on any boss that has any kind of personal survivability on it, which that boss had a lot of. This boss could be kind of similar, except obviously it's significantly easier than that boss. But yeah, that's basically it on Mythic. There's more, obviously. So like the last phase, there's no more Arcane Collectors. The boss is constantly sucking you into like wow, I can't believe I chose this POV, and he just has his fucking settings open the whole time. But like you can see the boss is trying to suck you into this void thing. The suck increases over time. If you get sucked in, you die. If these ads, which are trying to make it to the void, ever get there, you basically die. So it's about cleaving ads, and it's insane. He has this open the whole time. Obviously not, he didn't know that I was going to be watching his shit, but just like terrible luck by me. And then there's a burn. Oh, also after the second intermission, which you could have beaten on heroic and not even seen, but there's, after you do the second intermission, there's actually a burn into the last phase. The boss has a damage amp. There's a lot of damage amps in this raid. So yeah, little damage amp on the boss here before the phase, and you like blast him into the last phase. Honestly, I think this is a really cool boss. I think it might be frustrating for some guilds if you don't have the comp for it, but I think after last year, I think people will have the ability to flex a comp for this, because they did one-arm bandit, and also it's just maybe won't require as much of one, even though the profile's there. It's just earlier in the raid, so it's just really possible that you just don't really need to do all that. Like Rashanan was the 4th boss in a raid, right? So like sometimes it just ain't that bad. Okay, next boss. Soul Hunters, the randomly optional boss. Still have no idea, especially after seeing it, why it is labeled optional. I don't get it. I wish they'd answer it in an interview. Not a big deal either way. It's just, I'm not mad in any way about it. It's just simply confusing and I don't understand. But so yeah, it's just like a basic ass council boss. When the new spec hits 100 energy, this collapsing star happens. You got to soak these things as it's trying to go into the middle of the room. Meanwhile, a fight persistent mechanic is you basically have the Forgotten Experiments mechanic, except when you dispel it, it's really smart. It jumps to only ranged, and it jumps to people who don't have a debuff. So you don't really have to like super coordinate it. It's honestly, they made the mechanic intentionally like very easy to understand and easy, and it really hard to fuck up, honestly. But that's what you see with these two debuffs. So you just like keep those on players, dispel them when it gets too high. Basic line of thinking. On Mythic, I'm sure there'll be more of those. The bosses otherwise just do pretty basic mechanics. Like you have these little dodges, little blade dances. You have the hunt here, which is like you get into a line. Now on Mythic, it's going to do that multiple times, so that's like a Mythic change. I can go through this boss pretty quick. Then there's 2 other 100 energy phases we have to talk about. This is meta, I believe, from is it the Havoc Demon Hunter? Yeah, so this is just blazes. The other 2 bosses leave the arena, and then you just have to do blazes. Okay, the Vengeance one, it looks like they killed the boss really fast. Hopefully they let the Vengeance one do its thing. Oh, they did. Okay, so it's this. So basically the boss just leaps from one side of the room, does fell dev, and then leaps to the other side. So you just have to get behind it. Now on Heroic, you might be like, these are all really easy. On Mythic, this boss is really laid out very similar to Council of Dreams in so many ways. I think it's possible that the lineups of the mechanics will certainly happen at the same time as each other, but I think the 100 energy phases probably will. So, like, for example, you've seen the Blaze Fell Rush phase, you've seen the boss leaping and fell deving, and you've seen the stars coming into the middle you had to soak earlier. You're probably going to deal with 2 of those at a time. So, probably. We don't know, right? Haven't seen it on Mythic yet, but you're probably... And all of those are feasible. They're not... that doesn't seem super challenging. Certainly a lot harder than Heroic, but... yeah, but a little bit later in the raid, so this is like, this has to be the 5th or 6th boss. Think of Brood Twister and Nexus Princess Kaiveza. Picking between Soul Hunters and Fractalus is that same line of thinking. You've killed 3 bosses now, and you needed to kill those 3 to get to 4, and then you kill 4, and after you kill 4, you can go to either of these 2. So it's definitely feasible that this boss is intended to be challenging. Again, it doesn't seem like it's like extra challenging, which would make sense for it being optional, so I'm still very confused on the optional thing, but we can move on. Easy to understand, boss. Okay, next is Fractalus, which is very cool. Fractalus is a very cool encounter. You're going to have a lot of weak ores for this. And if you don't, you know, or sorry, you will, but I don't think it's the kind of weak ores where like, you're just going to fucking lose your mind because weak auras exist. Unless you run into a situation where like people have different versions of weak auras and it's like assigning people to the same spot, but you can kind of outplay that too. But basically, you don't understand the walls. All right, well, let me go later here in their testing and see if they have a pretty good pull. Okay, the boss is 17%, so they probably learned a decent amount here. Unfortunately, too, Heroic was bugged. That had a bugged timer where it would put out 8 walls at once right after you did the first clears or second clears. So it's possible they got like Omega griefed by that. But basically the boss works like this. You guys see how there's like 6 defined phases? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If Preet ever turns his camera around, you'll see some walls back there. So there's a mechanic that puts out walls. It's actually just happened and Preheat got one. So your job as a raid, looks like they're choosing to stay in this diamond marker here. They're trying to separate these out. When you get hit by a wall, it does a big dot. So you don't typically want to stack them. They do that here. But what this is going to do, let's assume there's 0 walls out right now. That's actually true because he's really high. What they're going to do, he's going to put 2 walls here and 1 wall there. So if you see during this knockback, unless he blinks it, God, fucking mages. All right. You're going to notice there's 2 walls here and then 1 wall here. The bit of the fight is if you ever stack 6 walls in any singular area, the boss basically enrages and kills you. In Heroic, you'll see some walls here, like on the left and right. So I hope you see it. He's probably not going to show it. Okay, so like right here when he gets knocked back. So, all right, do you see how some of these walls are like light blue and some are dark blue and some are light blue? All right, so those are the different kinds of walls. Like the normal wall is this lighter blue. The heroic wall is this darker blue. And they do different mechanics. So not only is, as it's obvious here, you get basically 2 or 3 wall sets, and then you get these breaks, and then people get assigned breaks, and you can break certain walls. Where this boss becomes cool, maybe not for a lot of players, because this definitely seems like one of those bosses where you don't ever have to think about this boss in an interesting way. You're just going to come here, a WeakAura is going to tell you where to go, and you just kind of hit the boss, and it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it's a cool damage check or something, but for us, this is super fucking awesome, because you can really have a totally different fight than someone else potentially. That's not usually how the race ends up working out, but you can decide to like fully stack aside and do like a giga clear. And those are going to be really fun. So as a problem solver, this boss is like built to be very interesting. That being said, on Mythic, there's an extra wall. And what that wall does is it basically gives the raid a dot, and you take 1 million a second for 10 seconds. So you can probably do some quick math. Taking like more than like 3 stacks of that is going to be like super crazy. But you as a raid are going to have the decision. Do you want very Taros-like? Do you want to take a bunch of raid dots with like AMZ? Especially like, oh my god, new AMZ is so fucking turbo insane for this fight. Do you want to do like new AMZ and then like a barrier and pop like fucking 5 and just use all personals and then don't pop any for a few sets, the mythic walls? Or do you want to make sure there's 2 every time? Like, what's easier to assign healing cooldowns and stuff like that, right? Like that line of thinking. That's really, personally, that's really, really fun for me. So seeing the mythic testing of this will be really interesting, but that's basically the lineup of the fight. I think this is cool for a few reasons. I don't think they've ever made a boss even remotely like this before. Even Taros is so simple. Honestly, this is as if they made Taros. Remember how we said Taros was sick and we wish they would make like a later in the raid Taros? This is a boss in the Sludge Fist raid position, so like 3rd to last boss most likely. And they basically did it Taros, but it's just like way more interesting. So in my opinion, this is really cool. However, it would not surprise me at all if like my opinion of this boss after the race is like this is an S tier goated fight, and then everyone else is like this fight is super whatever. You basically just like single target a boss and go where a WeakAura tells you. But like you can understand that from our perspective, doing a boss where you get to actually figure all this out is like really fucking fun. So I think we're gonna have a really good time with this. Healers are gonna hate this boss. Interesting. This is actually a boss where I feel like healers would love it. It's like a really high HPS check with like targeted burst healing, and you know when it's coming. I feel like that's kind of cool. Anyways, that's this boss on Mythic. Be kind of cool. How do you know what color your wall is before you put it out? That's not exactly how the fight works, but I also don't want to like fully explain that just in case other guilds aren't as prepared for their testing. Okay, next boss. Nexus King. All right, so this boss is fucking sick. Second to last boss, you probably guessed Nexus King. You're thinking Nexus Princess. There's also some Nexus Princes on this fight. And there's a dragon. And there's a damage amp. And there's some 2-target cleave. It's kind of cool. So I'll kind of go over a little bit of it. So P1, think like Agrimar, I think is the closest way to P1, right? The boss's tank mechanic, which you'll see in a second, it has different variations of it, but basically it does 2 tank frontals and 2 group soaks. So this is the tank frontal, which most of the raid gets hit by, and then you have a soak, which you'd want to like split ideally like half your raid in, at least how the Dungeon Journal is saying it. Then you put it in the other group, and then now the other tank gets a frontal, and that's like the main tank thing of P1. It has blaze lines, which are like the claws from a dragon. Really cool animation. So you'll see that right after this goes off. Once the blaze lines go off, they leave permanent area. Well, it's not permanent in Heroic, but likely will be in Mythic. Some area denial that you have to put somewhere. It may come like disappear before P2 or something, but in P1 it'll matter. I'm sure on Mythic too there'll just be a lot more of them, so it'll just influence your movement around the room. They chose to stay central, but obviously you could probably imagine multiple ways to deal with that. But looks sick either way. This whole time, by the way, this boss has this dragon, and the dragon usually mirrors the boss abilities, not entirely in P1. And there's like these little dragons on the outside of the room that are shooting these beams. They also like melee you randomly if you go near them. So it's like kind of makes you not want to be on the edge. It's like the way the fight is doing that. Other main mechanic I didn't mention. This boss is Denathrius. It is Sarkareth, where you start P1 with a certain amount of stacks of something. You can see Preet has 3 of them right now. You need to get rid of all 3 of these stacks before P1 ends, or you die. Or, I mean, I think technically you get MC'd, but, like, you get the point. You don't want to do that. So, how you get rid of that is you remove stacks of this debuff. So, you, like, soak this, it removes a stack. And it does raid damage when you soak it, so you may get clever with exactly how many people you have clear when. But you get the point. Clearly, like, another very good, like, AMZ situation. There's like, AMZ is actually so fucking insane in this raid. Now that it's been changed. So you have that mechanic, and then that's the bit. So you get to the end of P1. They're like turbo blasting it. You usually have to stop damage on heroic testing to like see all of P1, so they're probably going to push a little early, which is fine. What happens in P2? This is really interesting. This is not how I thought the fight was going to play out, because there's like P2 and intermission. This is like P2, but there's like an intermission, and then it does P2 again. So now this boss and Voidwing are down. Think last boss of Ruby Life Pools. You kind of want to cleave both of them, but there is going to be an important element later when it comes to that, especially on Mythic. Like on Heroic, you could just over damage one of the boss and natty push it, but unlikely to be the case in Mythic. Why is Balance doing double the DPS? They have some bug shit going on. Okay, so the boss does a breath. Here's the main mechanic of P2. And I'm going to tell you how it changes on Mythic. Okay? As soon as P2 actually starts, you're going to... Oh, wait. Sorry. You're going to get these big... so they just pushed Coalesce Voidwing. That's him talking to his dragon. Dragon's going to spawn. All right. 4 people are going to get these massive circles. What these circles are going to do, not only is it a difficulty to spread out, but when you spawn these circles, it's going to be hard to see because Preet's not looking at them. It spawns these like little void portals. And then the boss is going to cast a tank frontal here that's a beam. Think Razageth, and it actually works exactly the same. If the tank like uses no mitigation, it's going to blow up the whole raid. So it's a tank mechanic where the tank will do damage at the end to the whole raid based on how much they mitigated or didn't mitigate it. So exactly the same as Razageth P3 beam. Except there's multiple beams around the room that are going to repeat in random directions. Okay, so the boss is going to cast this tank frontal here, and they're choosing to keep it central. So you see there's a beam faced here, beam faced here, beam faced here. Okay, so watch these go off. Now these beams go off, and they rotate. And they'll fucking turbo destroy you if they rotate. And they can rotate in both directions. So, like, for example, Preet could have gotten absolutely... This is their first pull, so, like... Not like flaming or anything, but like Preet could have gotten absolutely smoked here. He didn't even see the beam, and if it happened to go left, basically the whole raid would have gotten smoked. So that's how that works. First of all, super cool mechanic, really cool to see. You guys want to know what this thing does on Mythic? You guys see how there's 4 portals here? On Mythic, there's fucking 10 of those things. They're not as big of spreads. They're not like the circle you have to spread out with is significantly smaller. So it's not like taking up the entire room. But yeah, there's going to be 10 of those beams. Yeah, it's going to go absolutely insane. It's going to be so hard. So not going to talk too much about how you would deal with this mechanic because I think we know how to do that. But you could probably imagine a lot of different ways you've dealt with this before. So this is kind of similar to like maybe last phase of KJ. What people did there is like the entire raid didn't have to learn exactly how to live this. You just needed one person to mark or ping a safe spot, right? That was the best way to handle KJ. But then you had Zakul, where Zakul had the tentacles come from the side of the room that happened like basically every 15 seconds. It was something you were constantly doing. But that was so hard that you actually couldn't realistically have one person mark a safe spot. Everyone had to like learn on their own where the safe spots would be and like how to live the mechanic. You don't know exactly how this is going to work, right? It could be either or in Mythic. It totally depends on what that mechanic looks like. I haven't seen it yet. Mythic testing hasn't happened. But yeah, this is potentially a huge wall mechanic in the fight. Very, very hard. It's either going to be, there's going to be some logic to the beams, which I don't really want to talk about, or some kind of like system that people will use when you guys get to the boss. But either way, really cool mechanic, potentially really, really hard. Okay, so now you're doing like 2-target cleave, and then this is interesting. You would assume P2 would continue, and then there would be an intermission going into P3, but now it does like the intermission, and what that is like typically how you deal with this is like splitting sides, and so one half of the group goes this way, one half goes the other way. Then you have some ad platforms. Use your cloak, which takes you over there, and then you have to burn these guys. The Mana Titan will just explode at 100 energy. That's basically your timer here. So both groups kill this ad. They wipe here. Fuck. Let me find a better pull. Okay, this is great. So I just randomly selected like 20 minutes further, and they're in this exact phase, and it looks like they successfully do it. Okay, so they kill this. The other group, I'm assuming, kills theirs. I can't see on raid frames. Yeah, the other group's getting here. Okay, so now you just do P2 again. So it's really interesting. I think like 9 out of 10 bosses, maybe 99 out of 100, honestly, Blizzard makes. You're going to do that beam P2 phase for like 2 minutes, and then you're going to split, and then you're going to start P3. What they did this boss is they do P2 for like one mechanic set, then you go to the intermission, kill those ads, you come back, and you do another minute of P2. I don't know why, but I found that to be very, very interesting. That's like really rare that they do something like that, and I wonder why they chose to do that. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's also possible in Mythic it's completely different maybe, but that's how they do that here. So basically you're just going to see P2 again, which is these 4 things come out. They have blazes at the same time as well. These beams happened. Do you see how lucky they got with beams? Look at this. You guys remember the previous beam, right? The boss beams, and literally every single one of them is facing to the outside of the platform. That is fucking, you pray for times like these. Holy shit. Just have that happen in Mythic, by the way. That will be fucking hype. Okay, so now they start the last phase. So this was bugged, and King's Hunger will sometimes end early. It has some weird thing to do with like boss pushing and stuff like that, which won't be an issue on Mythic. But now you get a 30-second damage amp on the Void Wing. So you're going to be targeting the Void Wing here. You're going to have it's like a little dodge phase, right? Blazes are going out. You have to dodge while also doing dam. Also a huge healer burn. Really cool. And then whatever health this Void Wing has left will get sucked into the Nexus King, and then you're going to start the last phase. Okay, so now last phase starts. All right, this is where you're going to feel very Nexus Princess-y. The boss is going to put out 2 sets of 3 orbs, which are going to orbit around the room. There are 4 orbits that you can put them on. And when they come out initially, they're going to suck you. So you want to, ideally have them like equidistant or get sucked in a position that isn't difficult. And then after that, they're going to rotate as planets. And they're going to do like these dodge mechanics. And then more planets are going to go out later. So I'll show you this at first. So they're putting it on the inner ring. Okay, so you're seeing the 3. They're putting 6 in the middle, which is they're going to get sucked right in the middle of all of them. Preheat's going through it right now. And then it does a dodge pattern, which you move away from. And then they rotate around the room doing these dodges. All right, so this basically repeats in Heroic. There's going to be a mechanic called... Oh, they die here. I wonder if they have a better pull. They have a mechanic called Starkiller Swing. At least if you see Starkiller Swing, I can explain the rest of it. So Starkiller Swing happens, and these will shoot through, not pierce, and destroy anything hit, and that's how you remove these, and then that just repeats. That's the entire phase, right? So I'm going to see... They're at the kind of the end of their testing here, but I hope they get another last pull, or another last phase pull. All right, let's see. Okay, so they do. So you see they put it on like the one ring out this time. I'll let you watch it as they come out. They kind of spread them out. Oh, okay, they were doing some shit, but okay. So now the suck's going to generally happen in the middle. You're going to see these rotate, and now that they rotate, you're going to have different patterns. So what's cool about this fight is you can entirely choose what patterns you want based on where you place these, both on the suck and the Star Killer swing. So now they're going to get Star Killer swing, and their job is going to be, if you get picked by this, destroy as many of these as possible. All right, y'all want to talk about Mythic? On Mythic, if any of these stars run into each other, you instantly die. Star Killer swing no longer kills these stars. They reverse their direction. So every single phase, every time this happens, you're going to add 6 more stars to the mix. And you're going to have to figure out how to kill this boss with a lot of HP. In this phase. This is fucking sick. We have spent a lot of time thinking of this boss, and I already think we have... What's cool about this fight is unless they like change the speed of these or something, you already know... You can kind of like fully figure out Mythic just based on this information in the last phase, which we've had a ton of fun and we spent a lot of time doing. But yeah, it's going to be a fucking banger, and it's going to be super cool to watch too. But yeah, I think this will be really fun. My Mythic days are so far behind me / cry. I mean, okay, so you're looking at this, but like you're not going to be most likely the first guild to kill this, right? So like, I think this will be really cool for the race, but I think for most other guilds, while it will look sick and hopefully the fight is fun to play, you're not going to get to this boss and have to figure any of this out, right? You're just going to like do exactly what a guild does that has been proven to work, and then that is your solution, right? So I don't think, like, I wouldn't look at this and be like, this is going to be impossible, because it's just there's going to be a working version of it that you'll use. But yeah, I mean, whoever made this boss fucking cooked, though. Insane cooking. Okay. So let's now look at the other fights. So we didn't see 3 of the fights because they canceled their first day of raid testing. Okay, so Preheat did a normal raid. So we're going to look at that because you're going to see every other boss. So you only saw these on normal. I probably won't spend a ton of time on them. First boss is a Plexus Sentinel. You guys see this big wall right here? If you touch that wall, you basically get shit on. Now, everyone has a cloak here, which you can see the extra action button here. Your cloak will allow you to blink through this wall. It's going to be relevant in the intermission. The tank isn't doing it here, but like the tank will probably utilize it in P1. Also Mythic, obviously a lot different. You get these things that you spread out that are basically area denial. The intermission starts, and think like Iminar, or like you see that like you have to get to the boss and the wall's coming at you. You have to dodge these beams, and you have to blink through the wall. And then you have to like make it to the boss and beat a shield. Every single time the intermission happens, the boss goes farther. Okay, they killed it like instantly, but the boss goes farther and farther back. So I don't know. In my opinion, kind of a cool first boss. Obviously isn't going to be challenging, but like visually fucking sick. And I think people will have a lot of fun on this boss. Okay, also there's an add-on Mythic that will spawn multiple times throughout the fight, and if it ever touches this wall, like you don't kill it in time or you don't grip it back, which is why grip will probably be relevant on Mythic here, the entire raid dies. Okay, cool. Second boss. So on normal, this boss is very basic. On Mythic, this boss looks really, really cool. And on Mythic, I'm just going to say it right now, they straight up fucking copied this boss from Terra's Land. Which is probably fair beans because Terra's Land copied actually so many things from WoW. But like there is a fight in Terra's Land that is legit exactly like this boss on Mythic. The tree boss. If any of you guys did it. So, which you probably didn't, or watched us do it maybe. So big spider hanging from the ceiling. Normal mechanics, some dodges, some like frontals, whatever. And then here you can see some people get tethered. They get sucked into the middle of the boss. And then you have to run 40 yards out to snap it. And you'll see when it snaps, it leaves some area denial. That's going to be relevant later. At a certain... it also has the Aranog mechanic. So, like, at a certain point, there's going to be, like, little tangles coming from the edge of the room, and you have to kill one of them to create space. Again, in Mythic, this becomes a little bit more interesting. So I would wait until I kind of describe the Mythic mechanic. I just want to see it all the way on normal first. So P2 starts, and the boss removes its ass, not even making that up. And then obviously because of that starts bleeding all over the room. You can't see it on THD's POV, but its ass is up above it and it's just raining down fucking crazy shit. And then yeah, the boss does a frontal soak, has increasingly large area denial, and then you have to move along the outside of the room and kill the boss. All right, super basic, right? You get it. And that's going to make these relevant, like where you snap these webs. You're probably going to want to do that in a way where the last phase is easier, however you decide to do that. Mythic mechanic. In Mythic mechanic, until the boss removes its ass, there are going to be 4 pylons, which you would probably assume are going to each be in these like little animated rows they have here. And those have to be soaked to a certain dot debuff. So let's say there's a pillar here with a beam going towards the boss. If that beam touches the boss, you basically get fucked. And if you get to it gives you like a stacking dot. If you get to a high enough, I don't know if it's a dot or an absorb. It's one of those two. But it's like something eventually where one person can't just solo it the whole time. You have to move out and someone has to take your spot. And that's just happening 4 times around the room. And that happens for all of P1. So if you think about how that would interact with the fight, it spreads people out a decent amount. It makes this suck mechanic interesting, because if someone who's soaking gets sucked, you're going to need like a backup so it doesn't go into the boss. And then again on the Aranog mechanic, the tangles or whatever. So right here, you're going to need to find some way to deal with this where each line is able to live. Right? So you can probably think of some ways to deal with that potentially, but that is... that's how that works. That's the boss. I think maybe there's like an extra mechanic in the last phase or something, but like you get it. Cool. Third fight. Last one we have to look at. Also, there is an absolutely insane amount of trash in this raid. It's fucking insane. Anyways, third boss is like easy live. So the boss comes out. This is not the boss. You like fight the boss, and then it spawns these like little cages. All right, these cages have ads that will all spawn in a certain amount of time. I think it's like a couple minutes, maybe a minute and a half. And you can't kill them until you hit them with an orb. So you'll see these orb people are gonna like shoot these little canisters. And then they only hit one there, but you see the point. Okay, that's gonna happen a few times. And they have way less health if you kill them in this like chrysalis phase, as you'd probably imagine. Also, the people who get picked, there's another mechanic that shoots out these like little orbs you gotta dodge. You've seen many mechanics like that, easy to deal with. Then they're shooting more orbs here. They get 2 more ads, which they kill. And then you'll notice at a certain point, there's 10 seconds left on this chrysalis, so they kill these guys before they spawn. But, or maybe they're intentionally letting, yeah, it seems like they're letting that one live. Okay, no, they're turbo swapping to it. All right, but these ones didn't get killed, right? So now they're going to spawn as the actual version of these ads, and you're going to have some choices as like which ads do you want to spawn. There's multiple ads. There's like an assassin, there's a mage, I think on Mythic. I don't really remember this, but they either... like there's a new ad that spawns, or like they have increased Mythic mechanics or something. And you could probably imagine on Mythic, right here on Heroic, when the ads spawn before they come out, you'll notice there's 6. They chose 1, 2, and then 4 in the middle. On Mythic, I imagine they're either going to give you way more ads to deal with. So like the choice of which ones you choose to spawn and where, like whether they're stacked up, spread out, or like whether you want to remove the mages or the assassins or whatever, like that's a decision that will be kind of cool. Very Lihivam style. So yeah, that's it. That's basically the entire encounter. There's no phases. It just does that until it's over. Kind of a cool third boss, I think. Kind of fun. But yeah, that's it. That's the whole raid. And then the last boss is really cool. I'm not going to go over the last boss. But it looks pretty cool. We did this run mostly to think of trash skips, pretty much. Just Giga Blast down every boss except Nexus King. Oh, that is good information. Max, will you put out a VOD on YouTube about this stream talking about all the bosses? Maybe? I don't know. That's not really... I feel like Franck... It's whether just my clip editor or Franck decides to do that. But if you think it's good content, I mean, hopefully they do. Money's nice. Okay. That's the raid. Also, just the aesthetic of the raid is really, really cool. God, I feel like I should give you an overview of the last boss. I'm just not. Because I feel like we understand it really well, and it's if someone else doesn't or has come to some different conclusions, it's possible that like I wouldn't want to just give them all the stuff we think about it and not get that in return, if that makes sense. You did on Potty C. If I said anything already, it was very obvious info. Anyways, let's look at the method video, I guess. I need to grab a snack though. Dude, I might need like actual food. Yeah, I might need actual food. 1 second, boys. I might have to hit up Chipotle. Yeah, we're hitting this. We're hitting some Chipotle real quick. Any classes or specs looking good on testing that you can share? I mean, if I felt like I knew anything that wasn't obvious, I obviously wouldn't tell you, right? But, I mean, I wouldn't really pay too much close attention to testing. A lot of the tier sets are super insane. There's gonna be a lot of tuning. Plus, like, the classes that were super dominating testing were just, like, majorly bugged. So you're not really looking at anything, in my opinion. I wouldn't. Basically, my advice would be to completely disregard any kind of... Like, if you left testing thinking, damn, this class is going to be good, and it has to do with what you saw on the meter, and not to do with, like, okay, you could... For example, you could test Forge Weaver and leave with the impression that dot classes will be good, and Moonkins will be good, and you'd be right? But it wouldn't... But that's not because of what you saw in testing. It's because of the way the fight is made. Right. You could take any version of any of those specs over the last couple of years and they'd be crazy at those fights, you know. So Max, if my class wasn't top of the meter, should I blow up? Yeah, basically, it's fucking over for you, man. It's actually cooked. Moonkins would be crazy at the last boss also. Yeah, it could be. You never know, man. Max, I know you can't talk about the last boss a lot, but can you just tell us what makes it really cool? Not the mechanic deep dive, but how it plays out. No, I don't want to do that. For the same reason as before. I'm actually so hungry right now. Hope my food gets here soon. Might need a snack. Do Sko's video? Dude, I just feel like it's hard to react to like two people. It's hard to react to what is already a react to something. Maybe though. I mean, you guys keep saying to do that, so I imagine we probably should. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this from a fan perspective because like I don't actually know a lot about this. I know it happened, and it was a huge deal when it happened. Like, just imagine, dude. Like, imagine you have... By the way, I don't think this has ever happened before, where you have a guild that's just been dominant. Like, Method was... They were fucking cranking everybody. They got world first in the first tier, like Blackrock Foundry tier. Heimel wasn't its own tier. Heimel and Blackrock Foundry were, like, part of the same tier, similar to how, like, Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor were a part of Nighthold, right? So like Method won both things in WoD, and they won 25-man Siege of Orgrimmar and 25-man Throne of Thunder. Like they were just fucking dominant. They were dominant. And then after that level of dominance, they split. They had a full split. Like basically every player left except for the officer corps. That's just never happened before, and as far as I know, and kind of crazy to imagine that actually happening again. You know. Um. Uh. But at the time, we were like the like top 10 world, and we weren't day rating. We were like rating, you know, like 5 days a week. At that time, we were rating 5 days a week. So like we were kind of fans of the race. We weren't really involved in it. So all these people were like famous to us, but we didn't know them, and it was all like this crazy thing. It's like reacting to like a crazy trade in the NBA or something, you know? Like it was just like that was my interaction with it. But like doing that while winning is crazy, and I'd love to hear the context behind that. You guys have probably seen the video, so maybe you can spoil it, and I'm not asking you to spoil it for me. But I imagine the only thing that even remotely makes sense is money. Like you're starting to get sponsors. They didn't stream the race yet, but like you have to decide where that money goes, and you know, just like the direction of the guild and stuff like that. Like that's the only thing I could think of. Like transitioning. Method ended up becoming like an esports org. So like I think transitioning from just a bunch of dudes gaming to that is just a fucking rocky road. Throwing money and all other kinds of elements that have no longer been there. It's weird. We've gone through like a little of that, and it was rocky too, because it just is. It's there's no way around it, right? You just gotta figure it out. So yeah, I imagine there's a little bit of that, but I'm sure there's more context. All right, let's fucking get into it. Where are we at? What can I search for this? Is it SCO? I'm just gonna type SCO preach. That work? Okay, so we have okay, so this looks like, okay, so Preach put out a Method video, and then SCO reacted to Preach's video, and then Preach reacted to SCO reacting to Preach's video. Is that what I'm looking at here? So this top one is the react of the react. The second one is the react. And then, oh, when we're barking. I hate reaction culture. I mean, I don't mind it if it's actually interesting. You know what I mean? Like for example, think about reacting in general. Preach making this video and SCO being the person this was majorly about. I feel like as a viewer, if you're just looking at, like when you're reacting to someone, you want to make the argument that your content is transformable. Like you're watching your reaction. A bad reaction would be like, you're basically just watching the video with no pauses and just hitting like some yeps. Fucking true or whatever, and you're just like not paying attention at all, and you're not adding anything of value. Like, yeah, that's some bullshit, right? I think that's bullshit for sure. But like if you are actually adding something, especially someone with actual perspective of the situation, that's insane content. And as far as reacting to the react, I've only done that a couple of times, but it's usually only when the person like disagrees with what you're saying, because you kind of have to react to it, you know. But yeah, kind of interesting. Preach made this video. We learn more. He wasn't an active raider at the time, as far as I know. He was like a casual for a while. He used to raid Method back in the day, but he was in the guild like when this happened. I just don't believe as a raider, although I could be. Chat seemed to be kind of confused about that. Some people very vehemently think he was not a raider, and some people are like, no, he was actually like in their second raid team, which I don't even. What the fuck does that mean? Like that doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. And then obviously SCO is one of the few people who remained in Method, and everyone else left them. So like, I'm sure he has a lot of takes on this, but also he was the reason, or he was a reason why a lot of people left. So like, you know, he's going to clearly be biased, but also I'm sure has a bunch of interesting information. We're going to watch the second one. And hit it. Let's hit it. Let's mute this music. Hopefully my burrito gets here soon, because I'm actually starving. What is it? Preach adds value in the reaction because he and SCO have spoken about this a lot, and he explains the differences in their perspectives on what happened. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a difference in perspective. Like, just alone, Method and Serenity split, and you have the people who stayed in Method and the people who went to Serenity. You have the people who decided to stay and felt like splitting was wrong, and you have the people who said, I have to leave here. Those two perspectives could not possibly be more different, right? I imagine they're like miles apart, right? So let's hear both of them. Even though I don't imagine Preach, I don't imagine Preach. God, he's huge. I don't imagine Preach is fully on the Serenity. I mean, actually, I'm not quite sure how that ends up playing out. It's weird because Serenity actually died. Like, Serenity didn't end up becoming like Echo. Like, Serenity did a couple of tiers. They were pretty good. They got World First Star Augur, and they basically just didn't win in Nighthold, and then they just died, and a couple of the players went back to Method. Bro, Sko is juiced. Yeah, he's fucking massive. Okay. Let's watch this shit.
Sko here, and Preach has just released a video here called The First Fall of Method, Legacy of WoW. So I thought I'd watch it and give my own thoughts, see what he's saying about this. This
44 minutes? Bro, you ain't seen shit yet. I'm turning this 44 minutes into a while.
Startling moments in raiding history took place.
Oh, another thing, just before we like really start this, I'm going to pause this all the time. And what's going to happen is I'm going to give a take on what they probably think. And then you're going to be sitting there if you've already seen this. And you're going to be like, he answers this in 20 seconds. Just keep playing the video. Stop pausing. Like, please shut the fuck up. Just, I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. If you know that's happening, sit there and be like, this is going to be cool when he hears that. And maybe sometimes I'm like, man, I should have kept doing that. But I'm going to do it all the time. If that bothers you, like, please leave. Just in general. Okay.
Over the course of 24 hours, the champions, the reigning, dominant, multi-year heroes Method, lost practically their entire
When was the
roster.
last time they lost? If you were Method when they died, when was the last time they even lost a fucking race? Technically Heimall, but like it was weird. I guess you could count Heimall. Like if you're thinking about raids the way they are now, you would consider Heimall its own raid, but that's not actually what they were at the time. Heimall and Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor were not their own tiers, right? Like, for example, Exorcist won Trial or Emerald Nightmare. I think Method won Trial of Valor, but then Exorcist won Nighthold. So Exorcist won that whole tier. That tier was all, I don't remember what the tier number was, but like Exorcist was the winners of that tier. So the first two like kind of get swept under the rug. It's weird. That's not how the game works anymore. They make raids differently, but yeah, they it's interesting that, I mean, like when was the last time Method lost? Like think about it. Like they won in Hellfire Citadel. They won in Blackhand, Blackheart Foundry. They lost in Heimall to Paragon, but again, I mean, I would still consider, let's just say they lost in Heimall, but it's like definitely doesn't matter as much as the other raids. That's just because of how it worked back then. They won in Throne of Thunder, albeit in MoP, Paragon was playing 10-man, so like their main competition wasn't there, but that doesn't matter if they're not competing with you. There's no reason to talk about it. So Method wins in Siege of Orgrimmar, Method wins in Throne of Thunder, Method wins in Terrace of Endless Spring, which again includes Mogashan Vaults and Heart of Fear. They won that tier, and they lost Dragon Soul, but they got banned for some LFR shit, and the team that won just didn't get banned. So, yes, they lost, but it's possible they were still the best guild at the time. They just, like, did some bad shit and got caught. But, like, so did literally every guild except for that guild that won. And then Firelands. They lost to Paragon and Firelands. So, basically, since MoP, 2 full expansions of dominance Method did. And then they die. It's fascinating. How does that happen? How do you have it all, you know? And then you die.
Wait. Okay, let's see the roster. I guess this is the roster that was probably taken from like the Archimon kill, which was the most recent World First that we had before.
Which is really funny because I believe Nagura is in this kill, right? She's just playing someone else's character, which is just what used to happen in the Race to World First all the time until the middle of Legion when they turbo banned everyone for doing that. Just interesting.
Happened.
One second. You guys are complaining about the sound, so I'm gonna turn it up a
names here, guys. Actually, a few that I can't remember. I can't remember Gaunt. Let's see the rest.
Bro, you can't even remember a guy who's in
who's
your
still
guild?
playing today? Zelia, Fikland's still playing, just not in any of the Race to World First guilds. Perfecto, Just Wait still does some stuff. Roger Bryan, of course. That's it, actually. Or not that many players still playing, guys, huh?
Yeah.
I guess I'm still here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many of these are still Race
five
World
pla-
First Raiders? Zalia, Roger. Roger's like behind the scenes now, but Roger could definitely still play. So it's like Zalia, Roger, Jimmy. That's Fragnance, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was him. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Those still involved.
Perfecto.
Bryan
Oh,
is a really
Perfecto.
good healer, actually.
Yeah.
Practically their entire roster just vanished.
Not as good as
Today, ladies
Zalia,
and
though.
gentlemen,
Just Wait.
We're going to take you on a journey.
Oh yeah,
of one of the most
you're still around.
pivotal moments in raiding history.
He just meant like
This
people
is
that were
the
actually
beginning
playing. Bro, I'm out of that raid
of
too.
when
Don't worry about
everything
it.
changed.
I'm fucking washed up.
Reach is looking good, by the way. Untold WoW
So what
histories,
happened
or
then? They were the champions. There was nowhere else to go. Well,
True.
unfortunately, as we have proven many, many times in
True.
this series, being at the very high-end mythic raiding guild, whatever, does not make you immune to the same problems that happen in your normal, casual, friendly raiding guild as well. You see, all these things have one thing in common. They're full of people. And people have all kinds of opinions on all kinds of things.
that is true, actually, guys. There's a lot
Yeah.
to be said about managing a WoW guild.
I'm sorry. This is going to be a more nuanced response. But hearing him say, there are people, and people have different opinions, and Sko pausing the video and ripping a fucking... So that's actually true. Like, so matter of fact, like, you wouldn't have believed it to be true that people have opinions. But let me tell you, I'm going to hit that once I got to hit that
Full
shit
of
again.
people. And people have all kinds of opinions on all kinds of things.
That is true, actually, guys.
Bro, that's fucking so Is that not so fun? Am I crazy for thinking that's the funniest shit of all time? Bro, I can't believe... Okay, this is going to be amazing.
There's a lot to be said about managing a WoW guild at any level. Like, obviously, back in the day, it was like 40-man raiding. So you had like, what,
So, guys, actually, that's true.
50, 60 people in the guild, including like a ton of like casuals and whatnot as well. But you know, over time, obviously the raid size has dropped, but the management required is has obviously moved up a lot as the competition's gotten a lot tougher and tougher. And yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, when you're playing with some of the best players in the world,
I'm sorry, I'm not even listening to him right now. That's legit, like... That is fucking peak
has
comedy.
obviously moved up a lot as the competition's gotten a lot tougher and tougher. And
Oh my god.
yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, when you're playing with some of the best players in the world, you know, there's a lot of interesting personalities over the years, a lot of egos.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's people management skills for like guild leaders and raid leaders and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, they probably have pretty good people management skills.
Oh,
They're
you
probably
have
quite
to.
transferable actually as well. Like I remember when I applied for like my first internship, like at university, to general.
Wait, did he mention WoW? I'm serious. If I ever stopped doing this and tried to do anything else, I think my experience leading people in WoW is maybe relevant if I was doing any kind of leadership position or potentially doing that. But I would never put that on my resume because I just feel like I'd sound like such an idiot. You know, like someone would read that doesn't know, and they would just be like, "Who the fuck? Oh, you led some people kill some fucking internet dragons, you little bitch." I'd be like, "Yeah," you know, like yeah.
Trick. I included my World of Warcraft, Guildmaster experience on my CV, and we actually did talk about it a little bit in the interview, which was fun.
The landscape was changing. Now, you guys are going to find this really ironic compared to what's happening these days.
True.
Sko posted in 2015. WoW raiding competition had become a two-horse race for a while.
True.
Yeah, that is true. Actually,
I'm sorry, I can't. Like, this isn't even that bad. but because of the other one, I just keep thinking of the fucking other one. Like, I just basically, I think he would just be like such a good, you know how like in a lot of comedies, there's like the straight man, the guy that isn't doing any bits, but they're just reacting to everything as like the normal, as the audience basically, right? The way he rips that shit deadpan is actually so fun. It's so funny.
For a while.
Yeah, that is true, actually. And if you guys remember as well, Paragon were swapping to 10-man as well, right? So there wasn't actually any going to be like some huge competition for us, I guess you could say, moving into the next expansion after Archimond. So raiding was actually becoming, yeah, a little less competitive, I guess you could say, because we'd been quite dominant for a while with some of our world first kills. And Paragon went kind of on the decline, I guess you could say, like they were kind of disappearing. Basically because Paragon was a Finnish only guild, and so they obviously found it quite hard to continue to recruit.
That's the most impressive thing about Paragon by far. Like anyone trying, you could make a Swedish only guild, and maybe if you got all of the best Swedes from any guild, I mean that guild would probably be pretty sick. But like the reality is you can't do that. There are guilds that those people aren't going to leave, right? So like just in general, just the prospect of making a guild where you're like, we're only going to take Finnish people, anyone from any nation, and they choose a pretty small nation, you know, but you know, obviously I think Finns are historically like pretty smart. They like test really well. They're like a really happy culture. So like maybe there's something to do with that, and maybe they just game a lot. Like there's a lot of they trend higher on having gamers. I know the Scandinavian countries, especially through like the 2000s, like they adopted PC gaming like pretty early. So I a lot of PTO as well, like that super matters. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like honestly, I think that's maybe the most impressive thing anyone ever did. The fact that Paragon was at one point the best guild in the world and was highly competitive when they weren't, and they only took Finns, is probably more impressive than what anyone else has done. Even though there's been guilds that have won more and longer, they were just doing it with a completely different set of rules. Now you can't fault them for doing that. You know, it's not like Method specifically taking players from anywhere. You do what's best for you, you know. But I mean, it's absolutely insane that they did that.
Finnish only players. You know, as people start getting older, as people start finishing university, and then they have to go and, you know, get a job or whatever. And this actually kind of probably leads into some of the stuff we're going to talk about in this video, actually. Because one of the core reasons, obviously, that I wanted to, what do you want to call it, like try and convert Method from just a World of Warcraft guild into something more, was to actually ensure that Method would still be around in the future. Because obviously we're faced with the same issues, right? Like we play with these players who have been students or whatever, then, you know, if there's not anything more to help support them, then obviously they have to stop playing the game as well at some point, right? And for me, I created Method back in 2005. So at this point in time, this video is being talked about. This is 2015. So that's 10 years.
Damn.
Guys.
10 fucking years
Method
later.
was like my whole life, I guess you could say,
Still
outside
is.
of, you know, everything else that's going on.
Right, he's still like Method had obviously a major, even more major fallout after this. They went through this kind of twice, and he's still like made it his life mission basically to keep it around.
On. So my entire passion, I guess you could say, my baby. So I started Method in the last year of secondary school. So when I was like 17, I think, and then I did, you know, 2 university degrees for 7 years, just all the time, you know, still playing and building Method, I guess you'd say, working with the guild and everything. And then I started working full-time as a financial analyst, and, you know, I kept working full-time while, you know, still building Method. But Method was like my passion, right? Method was the thing I cared about the most about. And so a lot of this was mostly about wanting to make sure like that Method was still going to be around in the future and not fade out of existence like so many guilds that we had seen before. So for example, you're looking at Paragon here, which was starting to fade out of existence at this point in time. But then look at the past, like other great guilds, you know, Death and Taxes, Nihilum, Insidia.
Yeah, until you have some kind of income, you're gonna have so much turnover that it's hard to keep going, right? And they still made it work. I mean, also you have to have respect for what they did. Like like us being able to have sponsorships now and like have a salary for every player, and this being the main thing that I do and the main thing that all of us do, is only possible because him and the people he played with over many years were like keeping this thing really popular, even without it being streamed, while having it be their second thing, right? Maybe there were some of them that were, I mean, actually knowing how this works now, there's probably a decent amount of them that just had really fortunate living conditions where they could just live with their parents and game all day. Right, like a chicken before the egg thing. You're more likely to have players like that in your guild because those are the people who end up becoming good at this because they can spend all day getting better at it. But there were people who had to like make this work while also having a job. Like I would be so much worse at this if I had a different job that I was working 40 hours a week at or more, and I had to try to succeed in this with whatever time I had left. That's like, we would be so much worse, you know? And they did that for a lot of years to be able to make what we do now possible.
All these guilds
So that's true, actually. What are you saying?
have a similar issue in regards to just fading out of existence because they didn't make themselves into anything other than a World of Warcraft guild, so to speak. And they didn't, what's the right word? They didn't have a way to support their players, any further than just, being players in the game, so to speak. And that's something that
you did that shit for the love of the
we have to
game.
do with Method if we want to keep Method around, because we were also having issues of people having to, quit the game or finishing their studies, no longer being able to commit to the World First raiding schedule, which is already starting to get quite busy back then. So it was mostly about trying to find a way to make Method a bit more professional, bring ideally some sponsors and stuff on board, being able to support the players, to make sure that Method, either didn't just disappear overnight because we lost so many players to just IRL stuff, or to stop Method from just being absorbed, I guess you could say.
Dude, just that alone. Like that, I'm so happy we don't have to deal with that. Again, because they went through this, but like, we don't have to worry about, oh man, I hope we don't lose like 3 of our best players this farm period, and you don't know when the tier ends, but like, maybe they're moving on. So they got a good job. They finished college. They got told they can't do this shit anymore by someone, their girlfriend, wife, parents, who knows, whatever their living situation is. Like we don't have to deal with that. Like it's very, very rare that we lose anyone to just IRL stuff, really. And that's because we have, some level of income that can support that. And he worked for like 20 years to make that happen, right?
By some other larger esports organization. I wanted to try and keep Method around and, do our own thing, of course.
Race for a while, which was unhealthy. And the raiders were being more and more burdened with requirements to raid. They were now having to keep up maybe 2 alts.
Okay.
Dude, imagine at any point in time compared to now, you have to keep up a couple alts and you're like, damn, this sucks, bro. It's so bad now.
Alternate classes, as Blizzard was stirring. They wanted to...
Yeah, you see, it's crazy actually to think how much more extreme
Bro, people didn't even do splits until Dragon Soul.
it's gotten since then, of course. But even back then, guys, when obviously there was nothing in the scene, so to speak, everyone was doing this purely from a passion perspective, right? So it did start to feel more of like a job rather than just like pure fun of like, logging in for the raid and just performing at your best. Like everything was getting already a little bit more professional back then. Like if you guys remember, for example, like all the weak aura tech and everything that we used on Archimond, and just, like Preach just said there, the requirement of like, a lot more alts, the farming requirements to make sure your characters were ready for raids.
Bro, it was artifact power that changed all this shit. Like it was like you had, probably like, I think we had 4 characters at the beginning of Legion. And then there was like one person in our guild who made 4 of the same class. And of course that person ended up having one of them with goated legendaries. So everyone was like, fuck, I should have done that. And then you just grinded artifact power, and that became like the amount of work you put into the race just increased infinitely with artifact power. Obviously, there was multiple grinds that were really hard to get all the way through BFA, and then island farming for Azerite power, and then like grinding essences and all that stuff. And then they removed everything like that. So going into Shadowlands, it just felt like you had to put in more effort because it's just what you had been doing. Because artifact power existed. So then that's when you started seeing people really start adding characters. Like I remember Echo added characters in Castle Nathria, and we were like, bro, what are these guys? They're fucking making like 4 of the same class. Look at these what are these guys fucking doing? And then they lose that tier, not because of that, and there wasn't any like actual tier or anything in that raid or anything you needed that was really important. It was just like eye level trinkets and stuff. But they end up losing that tier, and then they going into Sanctum, they kind of were like, well, that didn't even end up mattering. We lost to a guild that didn't do this. So why even keep these characters? But actually, Echo was onto some shit before anyone ever even knew, because next tier was Sanctum of Domination, which had these absolutely broken, which there was no way to know because they like literally weren't implemented on the PTR. They had these absolutely broken domination shards. And thank God, I mean, they won anyway, but like, thank God they didn't keep all their like mirror characters going into that tier, because if any guild did that, any guild, and you had like 20 shadow sets compared to everyone else having like 8 or 9, you would have smoked them. They were so OP, right? So that, and then after that tier, we're all like, damn, well, okay, if we all did the Echo thing going into last year, we would have had that. Then Sepulcher happens, right? Sepulcher happens. You have a bunch of people. You have to get a bunch of helpers. That's when the helpers from the community started. That's when we had, or like really started. And then they were adding tier back into the game for the first time in like 3 or 4 years. So tier gear became super important, and it was personal loot. So you had to like get people to loot tier and then be able to randomly loot it again and trade it. So it was like this big logistical, crazy thousands of helpers thing. If you remember, that's a tier famously where at the end of week 1, we're going to pay 10 million gold to anyone who could 1 million just for killing normal Rygalon, but 10 million if you got the tier and were able to trade it, which was like super. If you wonder why it was so hard to find, we basically were looking for someone who did not do our splits, but had killed heroic Rygalon but not killed normal. That would be the only person eligible to trade, because you would have had to loot the tier on heroic Rygalon and then not have killed normal, which was like impossible, right? So that's why we were paying so much, just to get JPC's tier. Okay, but since then, kind of a long-winded way to tell you, that is the ramping of things. Ever since Sepulcher, it's gotten exponentially worse, but that's when it like truly started. That's when like the degen, you have 15 characters things, like truly, that line of thinking truly began from where they were at here.
It's like it was just getting a lot more intense, but there wasn't like any, I guess you could say, additional return for the players, so to speak. And at the same time, the competitive scene was also declining a little bit in regards to like other guilds being, competitive. So there was kind of a lot going on in the background.
To stop the blatant account sharing the racers were doing. And that's all well and good.
Wait.
But the big problem.
Wait, what did Preach just say? Oh, maybe my food's here because there's dogs barking. But he said to stop the raiders from rampantly account sharing. Is he referring to the bans in Tomb of Sargeras?
Account sharing the racers.
So there was kind of...
Fuck, I'd have to find the last time Preach was actually talking. Let's see if I can find it.
Requirements to raid. They were now having to keep up maybe 2 alts and alternate classes as Blizzard was stirring. They wanted to...
Yeah, you see...
As Blizzard was stirring, they wanted to... And then he plays again.
Wasn't like any, I guess you could say, additional return for the players, so to speak, guilds being, competitive.
Racers were doing.
There's kind of a lot going on in the background.
To stop the blatant account sharing the racers.
So I don't think that's actually true. So he's saying like, well, Blizzard was trying to like, oh, they're making multiple alts. Blizzard wants to stop the account sharing. So Blizzard never did anything to stop these guilds account sharing in progression. So correlation, not causation. Around the time of Tomb of Sargeras and in Nighthold Farm, what was happening was all of our guilds were selling farm runs for real money, and most of the time we were logging on their accounts to play their characters so it was easier. That's what we were doing. So Blizzard, when we've been doing that for a while, but in that tier specifically, Blizzard was like, enough is enough. Fucking stop it. So they banned the officers from a few guilds, and then they banned us real hard in Tomb of Sargeras. And that is what stopped from that moment on And through the end of Tomb of Sargeras, because there was a little account sharing still in the race in Tomb of Sargeras that was never banned for in progression. It's like race to world first, not farm. Like specifically, I think there's like 2 or 3 of Zerup's characters that killed Maiden of Vigilance in that raid. But after that raid, I don't believe any top world guild, top 5 people competing for world first ever account shared in a raid ever again. That was the end. Because they were banning us for account sharing, but specifically account sharing buyers' accounts. Is to my knowledge, and we were very involved in this, so I think I would know, Blizzard has actually never banned a Race to World First raider for playing someone else's second Moonkin that was geared. Like Nagura, for example, she killed Mythic Archimond, but she wasn't on her own character. She was on someone else's character. People were playing Zerup's characters on Maiden of Vigilance, and he was not playing all 3 of them or 2 of them or whatever, right? Like, but there was never... Preach seems to say they were really trying to stop that, and maybe they were, but they never actually did. They never, ever, ever did a ban saying stop account sharing in progression. That never happened. It was purely, because of sales, which was, we talked about that with Roger recently, where I said, I wonder if we could have been account sharing this whole time because they never actually banned us for it. None of our guilds do it now. We can't afford to risk doing that. If you get banned for that, or if they punish you, then you're just like, you're cooked for the whole race. You lose. You get sued by your sponsors for having them give you hundreds of thousands of dollars for that event, and then you ended up not streaming any of it because you got banned for account sharing, right? You can't do it. Yeah, I just interesting to know. I don't think Preach is correct there.
We're doing.
But I can understand why he thinks that, because those bans did stop account sharing. It just had nothing to do with us actually doing that.
Oh, well and good, but the big problem, as it regularly is, money. Business opportunities were creeping in, and they were starting to get pretty lucrative. Okay, this is where
this is going to get super interesting, because this is how, when I'm thinking of a guild that's been dominant for multiple expansions, winning all the time, and then they disband, especially with some experience of our guild also being at one point just gamers gaming for fun, and then people offering us a bunch of money and figuring out how to split that and make it fair and everything involved with it. That is the only thing I can point to that makes me make sense of Method and Serenity, that whole thing happening. But Sko is the person that was largely in charge of all that. So this part should be really fucking interesting, because, you know, I'm interested to hear what Preach says about it, but also I wonder what Sko is going to say about that as well, because I'm sure he has thoughts.
Okay. They were starting to get pretty lucrative. So this video is based about Serenity, like 2015. Actually, business opportunities were really not lucrative back in 2015.
Yeah, especially compared to like streaming, right? Because like the product of what you were sponsoring before there was actually tangible value, like viewers, was significantly less, right? So like if anyone's thinking that they had the deals that like exist now, it's just there's no way.
Sponsorships were incredibly small, and it was very difficult to get brands interested in a World of Warcraft guild, of course, right? I mean, this is a core reason why I tried to expand Method out into working, with content creators, other, teams that were in like competitive tournaments, like a PvP team.
Dude, sorry, my food's here, and I would wait until the end of his sentence, but I'm actually so hungry, by the way. So give me a second. $3K viewers, but chat is so slow. Yeah, I'm view botting. I'm just ripping it. Any bots? All right, 1 second. Let's start playing it. I'm gonna rewind it a little bit.
I mean, this is a core reason why I tried to expand Method out into working, with content creators, other, teams that were in like competitive tournaments, like a PvP team, and also I think, maybe some other stuff. But there was really hardly any money in the scene back then. Like this, back in 2015, I was still working full time.
Give some
as
numbers.
a financial analyst, like I mentioned. So there was really not much going on. Like Twitch had only really been a big thing.
Like I bet,
Well,
for example, I doubt any of their raiders were making a salary. Maybe their officers were making something, but I imagine any amount of small money they were making was purely due to support the logistics of the race in some way.
not a big thing, but only.
I hope he
launched
gets
around,
into
like,
that.
what, for 2011, 2012.
Because I think
for
that's
us.
important. I think it's important for people. Like, for example, couldn't that cause a rift if like the raiders find out when the small amount of money the officers are getting paid and they're not? Bro, even if that, like, you could even make an argument that makes sense. Those people are gonna be mad about that for sure, especially if you weren't upfront with it. I'm really interested in how that went down.
I think MOP launched time that I ever started streaming, and back then it was only like once or twice a week. And to be honest, like maybe Preach talks about this in the video, we'll see, but there was so much resistance from the guild, like back then, to actually stream our raids and stuff like that. Even the farm raids, like it was like people hated streaming in the guild. So there was definitely a few clashes about that. Like basically they didn't want to stream our raids or whatever. Yeah, so
All of a
we'll see.
guild isn't usually a snap thing. It's a combination of
Which totally makes sense. We went through that too. Especially if you're not a streamer, right? It's hard for you to see the vision, and you have to think about everyone's like personal interests. Like, hey, I like hanging out with my boys off stream. It's like a better vibe. And then like some people are adding streaming into it. It's a different vibe, and you're like, okay, well, I don't gain anything extra from this, and you just don't really like it. You don't want to have it be commercial shit. You just want to like hang out with the boys. It's all about hanging out with the boys, right? Now, obviously, streaming it ended up leading to people being able to make money from this, which a lot of people probably enjoy, right? But like before you start actually getting paid, it's kind of hard to live on the promise of like eventually we're going to get paid if we stream our stuff. This is not exactly the situation you're talking about. This is an issue they ran into years later, like going into Old Year. But like people's personal motivations are totally valid. They're like, "What? Okay, so we're going to stream and maybe people will care, but like we have to like completely, you know, like our vibe is just, I don't know. You can't just rip certain words unfiltered." Bro, I don't know if they were slinging gamer words or not, but that's not even what I'm talking about. Like it's just different, man. Like when you're playing off stream with your boys, it's just like there's no one. It's just you're just hanging out, you know. Like even when you're playing in a small group, of it being streamed versus you just hanging out in Discord, it's just the vibe is just different. And I know a lot of people that don't stream do not want that vibe. You know, like here's an example. I play shooter games with like Lip and Scott and like Ben sometimes, or I haven't really in years, honestly. But like back then, like I was streaming those, and then Lip told me like, hey, I just like kind of don't like playing as much like other games like on stream. It's just like the vibe is different, which totally makes sense. When I'm streaming, my main objective is entertaining my audience, and then it's playing a game, and then it's hanging out with my friends. Where if you turn off your stream, your goal is I'm hanging out with my friends and playing a game, right? So since that time, I really enjoyed playing games with Lip. I don't stream basically any of that other stuff, and it's purely for the vibes and the friends and the people I'm playing with, right? Same exact thing here with like WoW Guild rating.
things over time that explodes, so let's set the scene for you. Over the past couple of years, the leadership of Method had changed a lot in terms of who was doing which task. Famously, incredible raid leader Kuznam had taken nearly all the raid management work. Officer Potham had become the primary organizer of the guild as a whole. Players such as Infield
I didn't know that.
I don't know.
Potham made
weak
WeakOrs. Like Potham made that Archimon WeakOr they just showed on the stream.
Agree with that comment, so to speak. Like the officer core was still the same as it had been for years. Like Kuznam was the raid leader before this as well. It was just a case of, I guess certain people like you mentioned there, like Kuznam and Potham with the WeakOr tech, maybe started doing it a little bit more. But I think the overall issue here was that like Kuznam, for example, and I guess Potham and a few others didn't really agree with the direction that we were taking things. So like I said, the whole direction I was trying to take was that we want Method to be around for, years to come. We obviously want to, try and build something a bit more sustainable where we can actually, support players, so to speak. Try and keep the guild going, basically. And there was still a little bit of a pushback, I guess you could say, from Kuznam and co, who basically just wanted to play the game and
I'm assuming by that comment that Kuznam was kind of the ringleader about leaving. Like, he's very anti-streaming. I mean, Sko has a point, though. Like, those people left. Obviously, Serenity died, and some of them ended up coming back. So, I mean, he kind of ends up winning this anyway, this dispute. But, I mean, Sko was right. Like, Sko's thinking of what to do with Method back then led to which was not proven at the time, led to a sustainable guild that can last forever and get paid by people. Eventually, like, streaming is what made that happen, but, like... But that being said, the people in the guild having reservations about that totally makes sense, because maybe their motivation for playing the game is just having fun and not making a salary from it. And also, it's just not proven. Like, for example, what could have happened is Sko's like, dude, we should make this sustainable. We should get some sponsors. We should stream more. And then let's say it doesn't pan out, and then the vibe is different, and it's just a worse situation. There's a version of history where that happens, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like both sides had merit. At least what I imagine is they're going to get into that in a second. But Sko ended up being on the right side of history. I'm pretty sure when it comes to like what guilds would end up becoming.
You know, not really to take things much further than that, so to speak. But let's see.
Others were now add-on specialists, and more duties had begun filtering down to not just officers, but the members as well. The thing is, none of them were technically the leader of this ship. That, as most know, was Sko.
Wait. Okay. There's no way that my head is on Joffrey here, guys. Oren, is that Joffrey?
Oh shit, that's crazy, bro. Bro. Joffrey's like one of the most evil villains ever. Like, that guy was so fucking good at acting in that show that he like doesn't act anymore because people just fucking hate him because of his good portrayal of a awful person and character. You know what I mean? Bro, preach. Bro, if I'm Sko, I'm actually hard tilted. I'm hard tilted at this. Let's see where this goes.
Also, I had a lot more hair in this picture, guys. Yeah. Maybe I need to grow it back out again.
Go. Sko had begun moving further and further away from the WoW day-to-day guild activities.
So, in regards to this, that is
he was still
kind
tanking.
of true, but it's not necessarily for the reason that he's, I guess you could say, insinuating here. It was obviously a combination of things, but honestly, guys, mostly it was because it was just crazy trying to obviously work full-time in finance, where you're doing obviously more than 40 hours a week in most places, and still trying to keep up with like the increasing grind of, you know, getting your characters ready, but at the same time then also being an officer, trying to, you know, manage the guild, and then at the same time trying to build Method into something more than a guild, like on, you know, in addition to that, right? So basically that was definitely probably something that, yeah, impacted things.
And more.
Yeah, because you can make the argument from Sko's perspective, hey, Method's my baby, but I gotta make my own shit, right? I gotta make money. I have this job, so I'm not around a lot. Maybe a lot of the other officers were. So then the person who's not around a lot comes in and is like, all right, here's what we're doing. And you can kind of imagine they disagree on anything. This time it ended up being money, but like the person who's not around a lot but is the GM. And then there's like the people who actually like are around more and feel like they lead the guild. If they disagree on something, the raiders are probably going to side with the people that they're around all the time. You know what I mean? And especially if Sko is suggesting some sweeping changes, especially with how the guild has been run for a long time, it makes sense that would be the reaction.
Into the brand that was Method and what its future held. The business prospects of...
I think this was the 2014 BlizzCon, actually, if I'm not mistaken. There's Blatte, obviously Eon as well.
Method. And I don't mean Method WoW,
Trekkie,
but Method as a potential
Bodger.
major esports org.
Wait, where am I on this? Wait, guys, they cut me out.
They had a pro CSGO team.
Okay, so the CSGO team that's being talked about here, you can see this is actually a clip from the Gfinity Elite series. This is not until much later down the line, like years from now, I think. Like maybe like 16, 17. So it's not like current footage. We did pick up like a US CS team, I think, in 2015. But it was a very low like commitment, like investment. Again, this was like our I guess you could say our attempt to try and make Method more than just a WoW guild, right? So we want to be in the in the bigger picture, or in the conversation, I guess you could say, with brands, when it came to working with brands, obviously they want to work with people who are giving them exposure, whether it's content creators, whether it's winning tournaments or like pro teams, because at that moment in time we had very little actual content creators and almost no streaming presence in the Method Guild, because we had very little streamers, and the guild itself really did not like streaming, like not even our farm raids. So actually, if you want to stream in the Method Guild, there was so much like pushback against it.
Bro.
Like you actually almost, in some cases,
I feel really bad for Zyronic. I'll throw it out there. Okay, so this was exactly the case in our guild. Before Old Year, so like during Legion, bro, anyone who was streaming got fucking slandered. Like, and Zyronic was the main person streaming in our guild before BFA, and there was such an anti-streaming sentiment, and I was definitely a part of that. Like 100p, I'm on the side of no streaming, and then obviously, super ironic going into BFA, I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll try streaming, and then. And then, so Zyro's just in the guild and has to deal with resistance from me and everyone else about streaming. And then, like, next expansion, I just blow up as a streamer. Like, that's gotta be fucking... That had, bro, if he like, actually wanted me dead after that, I would understand.
it felt like people who wanted to stream almost kind of got a little bit bullied in the guild. Like, I guess I don't need to name names, but I think this has kind of been touched on in the past about some people not getting treated that well by certain people in the guild because they wanted to stream or they were streaming.
Oh, he's basically talking about the same
so
thing.
there was kind of a negative environment towards streaming, which at the same time made it almost impossible to actually get people interested in the Method Guild because, you know, outside of our competitive success, which a lot of people weren't caring that much about in regards to World of Warcraft at the time, because we didn't, obviously there was no race to World.
I mean, they did. I don't know, like, look at the view counts when all 5 guilds, the top 5 guilds killed a boss, and then you saw the world first kill video for, honestly, many, many years, going back to, like, Wrath. Bro, people were super interested in that. It wasn't, like, obviously streaming exploded it, but there was clearly interest in what these guilds were doing, for sure.
Like, actually being streamed or anything. We also had very little content creators.
He means sponsors? Yeah, I mean, you literally had to convince a sponsor. Like, imagine how that conversation went. Like, hey, like, if we had, like, peripherals for our guild, we would perform better in whatever. So if they're talking, I'm just going to make up a company like Razer, right? Razer is saying, like, okay, yeah, sure. We can get you guys some peripherals, but what's in it for us? Oh, well, we'll put the Razer logo on this one YouTube video after the tier's over. It's a lot harder to convince them of doing that than when it's like, hey, we can have you be the title sponsor, and our casters will mention your name every, like, fucking 5 minutes or something, and you'll have your own segment, the Razer fucking caster bench or whatever. And also, there will be tens of thousands of people watching this concurrently every day for 2 weeks. That's obviously really easy. You know, like, they're like, okay, I totally get it. That there's clear value here. Before that was the case, there is not clear value. You're basically giving them some YouTube video stuff, whatever online promotion you can. Method had, like, a website back then, but, like, it's nothing in comparison to what it is now. It's certainly a harder. And if you can add streaming, like, let's say Sko's streaming on Twitch, and he's like, hey, I'll put the Razer logo on my stream, and our streamers will do it. Even if it's not streaming the race, that has value, right? Which is why he was trying to do that.
And WoW PvP teams. As such, new and uncomfortable terms started to be thrown around, like streaming. Completely ridiculous. Now remember, this was 2015.
Yeah.
The first broadcasted Race to World First wasn't until September 2018.
Yeah, so I try to do quite a bit of streaming, guys, because obviously, like I said, I'm trying to position Method in a certain way to make sure Method it was lasting, you know, long to the future. And again, this caused a bit of issues in the guild. Like, people didn't really agree with it, right? Like, that's definitely one of the underlying concerns, I guess, that some people had. Also, at this point in time, I was only streaming like once or twice a week, to be honest.
Personal experience with, and I've talked about it a few times. When I joined Method for the second time, I was a young, up-and-coming YouTuber making scuff-ass videos with a bad microphone.
Okay, so this is what he's saying in the video. When I joined Method for the second time, so he raided in Method again as a trial When?
in a backroom
This is what chat is like super confused about, and like no one can agree on when he actually raided in the guild outside of like super early Ulduar stuff.
bedroom.
Nice model.
But I did make videos, and after my very first raid coming back to Method, I made a video talking about that raid. The very next day, that video
It sounds like he was joined as a YouTuber.
was now on the front page of the Method website. This actually caused me a lot of heat with the guild.
Rejoined as a
People
YouTuber,
were
right?
under the assumption
Yeah, so you see, he actually mentions that there are two guys, right? Like the guild, a lot of the guild in general, it's so weird to say, but they were against like content creation, like streaming, creating content.
Yeah, bro, can you imagine? Preach is like one of the OG WoW streamers. Can you imagine if Preach was actively raiding in HFC like you guys were kind of, a few people were confused about earlier? Bro, they would have hated his fucking guts. They would. Sko was streaming, according to him, 1 to 2 days a week, and it was causing all of this ire. Could you imagine if there was like a fucking YouTube Lord pure perma streamer guy? They would have fucking killed him.
About like the guild or whatever. Yeah, like that was just a big divide, I guess you could say. It's just a different mindset, right? Like I understand obviously why some people would want to do that and want to just play the game and then just stop playing it, whatever. But for me, like I said, I was really trying to make sure that Method was going to be around in the years to come, right? So we had to try and build it into something more than just a WoW guild. Otherwise, Method was going to fade out of existence in the next few years. Like it's just inevitable. Like every other WoW guild out there, basically.
that I had been brought back because of my YouTube presence. I was there to bring attention and eyeballs to Method. That wasn't the case at all, and I wanted to prove myself. And they hadn't asked permission.
Oh.
So I sent a message saying, you guys need to take that video down, and you need to ask me if you want to use my content that way. Now, in their defense, they did. They took it down immediately and never did anything else.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I actually don't remember this particular incident that he's talking about, but he obviously, it's his video, so it
3
probably
days
definitely
later,
happened.
I was then called into a meeting with Method management. I thought I was in trouble. But no, I was
Absolutely evil putting those sounds in a YouTube video.
called into a meeting to discuss Method's future branding opportunities and revenue streams through YouTube, how they could grow their brand that way.
Okay.
As you can see, the
I actually, again, I don't remember that specific conversation, but Preach obviously remembers it probably quite well, so I'm sure again that probably happened.
idea of branding, growth,
Bro, he put you as Joffrey in this video. You can like vehemently disagree with him if you want. You don't have to take the high road. That was pretty fucked up.
and marketing has been a big push internally at Method for a very long time, because that was in 2012. So in the months leading to the breakup, cliques were forming.
What Sko meant to say, by the way, is he doesn't remember Preach giving them advice on YouTube fucking at all, by the way. In case you didn't read between the niceties he was throwing out there, he don't remember that shit. So that's not true, actually.
As they do with most people not being interested in the Method brand, marketing, PvP teams, and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So he kind of touches on here what I was saying before, right? Like there's certain people in the guild, including people like Kuznam, for example, who only want to play the game, right? Like didn't want to really build Method into anything other than just the WoW guild. And like I said, that was obviously a difference in opinion that he and a few others shared, and that was obviously one of the main reasons why ultimately the Serenity split happened. Really just a difference in opinion about what the next step should be for like the guild in general and the wider like Method organization.
And certainly not streaming progression. At the same time, not being happy that as they saw it, they were doing most of the work for Method Guild, which was making the money. But the money appeared to be flowing to mostly one person.
Ooh. Oh, shit. Let's fucking get it.
Okay, that is...
Oh, shit.
I mean, that statement is just, I don't know, that's definitely, I mean, in my opinion, of course, total nonsense. Like, that
Call him
didn't
out.
actually happen. Again, in 2015, the money involved in, like, the guild and, like, the wider Method, like, activities was so small. And at the same time, like I mentioned, just up until, what, it was...
He's red? Yeah, no shit. Like, if what he's saying is true or he believes it's true, that's just wrong, right? He would be mad, right? Like, you're just fucking calling him out for no reason, right? But also, I imagine Preach's take he's hearing is from everyone else. Like, it's possible that the people who left Method and made Serenity left because they thought Sko was taking all the money, right? Of course he would leave in that situation. So let's fucking hear him out.
I think August 2015, I was still working full time. And then after that, when I stopped working full time, basically any money I was able to make was basically from, the content creation in terms of like streaming on Twitch or similar. In terms of money from Method, it was so small, and it was any money was basically reinvested into the org or to the players. And
By the way, I want, just for what it's worth, what he's saying right now, I completely agree with. There's two sides here, but the prospect that Method was actually making like a lot of money is there's no fucking way they were making a lot of money. Like I even mentioned this like 10 minutes earlier in the video where I said any money they were making was probably just to support their guild expenses, but like that is true. Like there's ain't no way they were making a lot of money. What they might be referring to is, I don't remember how big of a Twitch streamer he was back then, but I imagine his Twitch income definitely fed into this, right? Like, for example, if he's streaming their raids and people felt like he was making money off of their content in a way, right? Then there could be some resentment there. It's not money from sponsors and he's just like paying himself and sweeping it under the table or whatever, not telling anybody. But like if they're already anti-streaming, they're certainly going to look at the money he's making at streaming, which he's also stating he streamed 1 to 2 days a week. If you streamed 1 to 2 days a week, and this is in 2015, bro, Twitch was not huge in 2015. And also the monetization was way worse. No one played ads, and like ads are, for example, like 50% of our income now. And like there was no ads then, it was like basically purely subs. So I kind of doubt he was making really a lot of money outside of being a I bet he made the vast majority of his money working full time as whatever he said, a financial analyst
and whatnot, right? So yeah, I think that's a big misconception.
You just want,
like, maybe even at some point in time, guys, like it would be interesting to talk about how much money Method actually has made over the years, because it would be quite surprising to a lot of people.
Yo, fucking slam that shit. Why would you not talk about how much money the guild was making in 2015? Who fucking cares? Right? You were making, as a guild, you were making some money every week through raid carries. Right? That's usually how guilds made an income back then. Full disclosure. People paying real money dollars for runs. Although that didn't pick up a lot until it picked up big time in Legion, but people were absolutely still doing it back then. Challenge mode carries. This was in WoD, right? That was fucking fat. Huge money. Mop, challenge mode carry, same thing. So yeah, I agree with him, but I don't know why he wouldn't even talk about numbers from back then. Why not?
That most of it has, I mean, of course, it's just been reinvested in things like, even like, for example, the Race World first popping off.
Would you talk about how much money Liquid makes after years? Yeah, I mean, we weren't around in 2015, but I can tell you how much we were making when we first started doing this, which was fucking nothing. Even how much money we were making when we were doing the Race to World first. Like literally, we were competing for the race, made zero money until Eternal Palace. Like, not a fucking bro. We had these like fake sponsors. We had a GNC sponsorship. It was a guy that just owned a GNC store, and he would liked our guild and was like, we'll send you some suppies. And he basically sent like one shipment ever, and then like completely did not fulfill his end of the bargain at all. Like we even had a GNC like delivery channel on our Discord, and it was just picture. He kept saying that the warehouse was frozen, so people in our guild were just posting frozen buildings like every day until, I mean, he never sent anything, but like that's what we were doing. Literally nothing, right?
And whatnot. You guys wouldn't believe how long it took for brands to kind of catch up and understand like the size and scale of that opportunity, while of course like the putting on the events and everything extremely expensive and so on. But I think there's always
no
this
events back
misconception,
then.
I guess you could say, that there's a ton of money and it's, people aren't seeing it, so to speak.
to game, push world first with their friends, and not be a part of some big corporation.
Okay.
Yeah, bro, this is crazy by Preach. Bro, putting him as Joffrey and Gallywix. He's not putting his face on Gallywix here, but that's the
At least I'm not jumpy this time, guys, but I guess they're indicating that meant to be Gallywix here speaking to like the officers. And we know what happens in this cutscene. This is actually one of the few cutscenes in the recent patches that I have actually seen, right?
The clearest public example of this came from member Tegu, who posted this
Oh
when
shit,
they left.
I have not even read this. I don't know where to start from even, so I try to keep it short. Basically, I was quite disappointed with how the guild meeting went last night and how much was talked about money, and seeing some of our best players leaving, I decided to follow them I was here for dude. Shout out! Remember when forums were a thing? Like, but this was before Discord, for example. But it was the best experience I've ever had in this game, and I'll always be thankful for the opportunity to be part of this guild. With some of you, will stay in touch. With some of you, continue playing. Probably, and for everyone, I wish you the best of luck. Whatever you decide to do next. I mean, that's basically Tegu saying I left because other people left. This is like he's not saying anything here, right? I mean, I guess they talked about money in the meeting. I mean, I even heard that. That was the rumor, right? They had like basically a bad guild meeting. Imagine having a bad guild meeting and your guild explodes. By the way,
I was
that's
quite
pretty unlucky.
disappointed how the guild meeting went last night.
Just like have another
and
one.
how much was talked about.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. This goes back to the misconception from some of the players that there was a lot of money flowing into the org and that they weren't seeing enough of it, so to speak. Again, that just didn't happen in reality. But it's very difficult to actually
Wait, what?
Change someone's opinion about that, so to speak.
Wait, what is he saying didn't happen?
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. This goes back to the misconception from some of the players that there was a lot of money flowing into the.
Okay, yeah. So you were talking about money in the meeting, but it wasn't like, as he's been saying, the amount of money was fucking piss. It was like minuscule. But just talking about money, yeah. But like that's the thing though. I have had guild meetings about this. Like we didn't make fucking shit until Eternal Palace, and then Red Bull's like, hey, we'll give you guys a bunch of money to come here. We'll fly you to London. You get to, and really what mattered was you're meeting all your friends for the first time. But even just those initial meetings, there was a lot of resistance, right? People that ended up thinking it was a good idea, but like anytime you're throwing money into a thing that is largely fueled by passion and playing with your friends, it's fucking rocky, dude. It's just simply hard to figure out. Even if you fucking split it even, it's just a problem. It's weird. Why don't we just keep playing why are we even streaming? Why don't we keep playing the game for fun, So I get that. But I don't know. Your guild exploding over it is
org,
that's crazy.
And that they weren't seeing enough of it, so to speak. Again, that just didn't happen in reality. But it's very difficult to actually change someone's opinion about that, so to speak. But ultimately, again, like the thought process behind this is, of course, let's try and make Method into more of a guild. Let's ideally, do more content creation, get more streamers interested in actually streaming.
Yeah, but it sounds like they hated all that. Like one thing is for sure, if he ran the meeting or whatever, that meeting sounds like it had a big reason, or maybe the meeting was the final straw, right? I doubt like everyone was having a great time and they had a bad meeting and people were like, well, time to leave. The guild that's won like 1 million races, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen. Like clearly it was building to that point. There's a huge resentment from money and streaming. I mean, even honestly, like our guild, I'll be honest, our guild figured this out. We figured out how to like get money from this and not fucking blow up, right? But when we were going through all these conversations, there was an example of a guild that already did it. Method at the time had already proven this as a successful model. They were the trailblazers in this sense, right? So like there was at least a proven success chance, a success case. It's like trying to tell your parents you're going to try to be a pro gamer or make money as a streamer before anyone's actually been doing that. You just sound like an idiot, but now it's something you can do, Same thing with that. I can't say that my guild wouldn't have blown up if we were the people trying to do this when there wasn't another case of someone having done it successfully, right? We didn't do the same thing as them.
Let's work with some content creators. Let's work with some other teams, like YPUP and so on, so that we can actually attract sponsors. Then, of course, once we attract sponsors, we can push more money back into the guild, and we can actually, give people an incentive, like to actually stay around, right? Like, so we be able to stop players from like quitting the game or whatever, right? Like some of our best players that would allow us to still be competitive and actually really still push Method as a world first rating guild. We'd make sure that Method had longevity. We'd make sure that we didn't get absorbed by like another, esports organization or just fade out of existence. And historically, like this has happened so many times that we've only been able to keep like some of the best players around because we were able to offer them like additional incentives or compensation, so to speak. Like there's actually like even for example Scripe, like when he was very leading Method, like there was actually instances where Scripe would have just quit the game full out if we weren't actually able to of course compensate him for the time that he was putting into the game and everything, because he had to get a job or whatever, right? Like that's a situation that we're often, you guys can imagine now in the professional scene that we're in right now, it's always impossible to kind of imagine what we're talking about here, but there was a big gap there.
About money. This was a part of the exodus of every single member and officer of Method.
Wait, oh, it was I thought the officers stayed. Was it actually just Sko that didn't leave? I swear Roger stayed.
Excluding just
Bro,
two.
Fragments.
Just wait.
I see Fragments' name there. Like, Fragments has left Method and rejoined Method. Honestly, guys, at this point in time, like 4 times. It's actually wild.
Oh, he
Love
lists the
guys
people. I thought Just Wait
And of
stayed too.
course, Sko.
Holy shit, Roger looks young there.
watching.
Practically.
There's someone missing here, actually. I'm pretty sure Perfecto was still part of the team as well.
Yeah, I
don't
think Perfecto was
left.
too.
The entire roster left within a few hours.
Also, Sloopbag joined Serenity, guys. That was a real sore point for me, actually. Like, I've talked to Sloopbag, obviously, since then. But Sloopbag was meant to join Method just before this kind of this kind of happened, right? Like, me and Sloopbag were pretty close. Like, we hung out all the time at, like, BlizzCon, blah, blah. And Sloopbag was actually meant to join Method. Then, obviously, when the Serenity stuff happened, he went to join Serenity instead.
Oh damn! And you were cool with him? Yeah, that
So
sucks.
that was like
that sucks.
that felt like a real sore spot, to be fair. But it's all water under the bridge, guys. Obviously, it was the sore spot, of course, was that the guild had just decided that they wanted to go and do their own thing with Serenity. That was obviously a much bigger thing. Yeah, so
Hours. This, of course, led to the internet meme of Skull was the problem. But was that true?
I mean, Sko definitely, bro. One of the best pop-off tweets ever was like, so this happened right before Legion. So the first raid of Legion was Emerald Nightmare. That's the one Exorcist like killed in 15 hours. The raid after that was Trial of Valor, and Helya was a fucking hard boss. Odin and Guarm weren't nothing either, but then Method won in that raid. Basically, like a little baby tier is the only thing separating them from completely getting smoked and their guild dying and then reforming by picking up the world's 7th guild, Rapid Eye Movement, and then like 2 tiers later you're winning, you know? Like that is when this happened, Sko at the time tweeted like Sko was the problem at Serenity. Bro, I don't know if anyone, because this meme was everywhere, right? I don't know if anyone has ever felt more insane and like as no one has felt more like an absolute fucking beast than when Method won Trial of Valor and then he tweeted Sko was the problem. That literally fucking pre-watched this guy. I didn't fucking watch this shit. This happened then. This is history. This already existed. This happened then. I remember when that happened, bro. That, I mean, it sounds like they're gonna get into that here, but I'm telling you, there is nothing that makes you feel like such an absolute beast than fucking tweeting that shit out.
A few hours after the Exodus, Skull.
okay, so here's actually my statement that I made, guys.
Oh, I didn't even know this. Hey guys, you're probably aware there's big changes happening in methods. There's a lot of issues that cause this, some more complex than others. A psychologist could probably write a novel on the situation. Okay. Yeah. Okay. World of Warcraft, and more specifically hardcore rating, there's a lot of competition. 2-horse race versus Paragon each tier. The effort required to rate at a hardcore level, not necessarily enjoyed as much as it previously was, sure. People are motivated to play at different factors in various levels. Always external factors like money are involved. Lack of leadership. Okay. Calling himself out here. To state it plainly, the members' faith in the officers' team ability to lead due to motivation and drive wasn't at its strongest. Yeah, I mean, for sure, over time there has been a transfer of power between the officer team and the members. For example, raid leading was done on Ikuznum and certain activities being organized by members. And different views on method expansion inside and outside of WoW. I mean, yeah, that was, I mean, probably the last part and whatever perceived money. The thing is, like, he might be correct in saying, there was no money, but the raiders don't actually know that. Like, clearly they didn't trust him. Like, if he's saying, like, guys, there ain't fucking shit, there's no money here. But for whatever there is, we can kind of use it to do this, or maybe this is how we're going to, like, make our guild work in the future, right? They might not believe him. You know what I mean? So, like, he might be right about there being very little money. In fact, I would almost, knowing what I know about this industry, there is no way they were making fucking anything with that back then. They were making pennies, like absolute nothing from whatever sponsors they had, because they just didn't have any value to give them. Unless they had like an oil or fucking benefactor or something that just loved their guild, but can't always plan on that. Yeah, I don't know. But if you're a raider and you don't trust this dude, maybe you don't believe that shit, right? Maybe you're like, well, maybe he made a ton of money, you know? Maybe he's fucking making all this shit and we're all just fucking watching him stream, you know?
Let's see. As you're probably aware, the big changes happening Method. A lot of issues at play that caused this, some more complex than others. Been a pretty bad atmosphere, strained relationships in Method. And while in the past, the unified goal of pushing for World First has kept the guild together, this is evidently no longer the case. In short, very basic summary of issues that caused the separation. So World of Warcraft, hardcore rating in decline, lack of competition. The efforts required to raid at hardcore level is not necessarily enjoyed as much as it previously was. I've kind of mentioned that already. People are motivated by different things.
I didn't think he was actually going to read this entire tweet himself, but I should have expected that he did, so I didn't have to read that beforehand. All good. He takes some L's sometimes.
And as always, external factors like money are involved. Yeah, we talked about that. Lack of leadership. The members' faith in the officer team's ability to lead due to motivation and drive wasn't at its strongest. Over time, there's been a transfer of power between the officer teams and the members. For
Wait,
example,
is it a Facebook post? It's not a tweet. He ripped this shit on Facebook.
Activities are being organized.
Bro, your fucking like high school classmates read this shit.
Members, yeah. So
they're
this
probably
also,
like, "What are you talking about, bro?"
So yeah, unfortunately, key people such as Kuznam, raid leader, and Parham, the guy who organized a lot of the Archimon stuff, including like the Recor attack and stuff, have decided they'd rather start fresh in a new guild alongside those that they closely associate with. So basically, guys, the problem that you have here when the guild obviously follows generally the raid leader, right? So when Kuznam and a couple of like his like a handful of his like close, I guess you could say, buddies decide they want to do something, then obviously
I don't know if it's necessarily the raid leader. Like I think the raid leader is often this person, but he is right that like between the GM and the raid leader, it's not even the raid leader. There's like an emotional leader of your guild. They don't have to be the raid leader, but like there could be a guy that isn't the raid leader that is just like that dude. And everyone is going to be willing to follow that guy because he's kind of what makes the guild tick. They don't have to be a raid leader at all. They don't even have to be an officer, to be honest with you. But yeah, it sounds like Kuznam was just that dude for the guild. Like he was the one with the respect. He was the one that people followed.
Most people are going to follow the raid leader because they think that's what makes the most sense, right? Like they're used to obviously that person being the leader of the guild. So yeah, as I say here, many members will obviously follow the raid leader, which is understandable. So in regards,
someone in chat says, at least in my experience, guilds are cliquey. Yeah, no shit. Bro, I don't know if there's in the entirety of human history you have put 20 humans or more together and there doesn't become smaller groups that form within that larger group. That's true what you said.
the feature of Method.
I believe that.
Method guild die. We're going to use the resource at disposal to rebuild the guild. And I already started speaking to people really quickly after this. I spoke to a lot of people, obviously, guys. I was never going to give up on Method, right? Like, it's something that I was building at that point in time for over 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, Method mattered more to you than it did to all of them.
I was so
clearly
determined to make sure that Method existed into the future.
Dude, shout out Roger and Just Wait. Well, I mean, I don't even know if it's really a shout out. I just think that is, like, so interesting. Like, as far as I know, Roger was really well liked by all the Serenity dudes, by everyone that's been in Method, right? He's a likable person. Him seeing everyone he knows as his friends and teammates leave and then deciding to stay is so fascinating to me in that scenario, right? Like that and same thing with Just Wait, like choosing to do that is so interesting.
Which was my motivation and drive for a lot of this prior.
Obviously ended up being on the right side of that. Serenity died, Method continued. The Method players that wanted to came back.
Even the guild split, right? So there's also even talk here at the bottom about investigating the possibility of streaming the entire progression. Because again, that was an idea to really try and incite, I guess you could say, a lot more interest and excitement into the raiding side of things again, while also being able to create a lot of content and like attract, hopefully, eventually sponsors and brands to be interested in what we're doing, which will allow us to obviously secure Method's longevity and actually, give back to the team and the players to keep them around.
Took to Facebook to give his side.
Facebook.
In that post, it is confirmed the issues mentioned above and that he was indeed pushing in 2015 for Method to start streaming the Race to World First.
Ooh, I never heard that.
Dudes, the idea of streaming the race...
He didn't pause it. Wait, was Method actually, like, considering streaming the Race to World First in HFC? I didn't even know he just read it out loud. Oh, shit. It was the last sentence of the Facebook post. Oh, maybe did I not? Oh, I didn't read this part, did I? Yeah, I did. I didn't read the bottom. But yeah, in regards to future methods, zero intention of letting the go guy. Approach to expansion release and tier hardcore rating. And next tier will remain hardcore rating, and while World First will obviously be a stretch depending on how many core members we lose, we will still be aiming for the highest rank achievable. With the current rating, they're also investigating the possibility of streaming the entire progression. Yeah, but okay. But I still don't know if... Like, now they're saying they're investigating the possibility of streaming entire progression, but I don't know if, at least just from the information we have here, that was discussed in that meeting. Because I imagine you guys saw that fucking Tegu post earlier, right? Where he was saying... like, hey, I left Method because, like, they talked about money in the guild meeting and then all my friends were leaving or whatever. Bro, if they talked about streaming progression, that would have been the instant reason that was stated as why people wanted to leave, because they didn't want to do that. I don't think they talked about that in that meeting, because I feel like that would have been the story, right? It sounds like, hey, our guild got fucking gutted. We're probably not going to win, so maybe we'll try streaming, is what this reads like to me. But the way Preach is saying it, and he isn't correcting him, is that maybe they were considering streaming progression before the guild died. And if that was the case, nothing here is surprising to me. Forget all the money and everything. I bet that singularly is what killed Method there. Because I just think it just wasn't time yet. You know? He had the right vision. Like, it ended up being the thing, but it wasn't the time yet. Clearly, I mean, if your whole guild fucking leaves, like, maybe it's not the move, right? But I don't know.
And actually, you know, give back to the team and the players to keep them around.
Took to Facebook to give his side. In that post, it is confirmed the issues mentioned above, and that he was indeed pushing in 2015 for Method to start streaming the Race to World First. Dudes, the idea of streaming the race in 2016 is completely insane. I know it's normal to you now, but you've got to look back.
He's not pausing it. Maybe he is. Bro, if I'm him and we didn't talk about streaming progression before the guild died, I'm like pausing and clarifying that right fucking now.
Then,
oh, please.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
because streaming was still quite early in World of Warcraft back then, but it was starting to pick up a lot of traction. Like, obviously, we had quite a few streamers by 2015, I guess you could say, or at least some people in the guild were streaming, which I mentioned before wasn't always seen that positive.
Hearthstone had blown up a year before this, and that was a major exploding point for Twitch, and Hearthstone and Warcraft are, like, pretty closely related, so I imagine it's like, definitely, I don't remember watching WoW Twitch back then, but I imagine it was getting a lot bigger.
By the guild. However, there wasn't actually that much competition for us either, right? So this was actually an opportunity, again, for us to, you know, stream, probably still win, and at the same time, you know, get people interested in what we're doing. So it was definitely something to consider even back then.
Okay, so it sounds like they had discussions of doing that before the guild blew up. Okay, every bit of confusion I had entering this video is now gone. That is like solely what made that happen, for sure. Because there was already so much anti-streaming sentiment. Yeah, I mean that's just what blew up the guild.
Begun to exist.
But what's funny is that actually when Serenity obviously was formed, and then we had to compete against Serenity with Method, then streaming obviously had to be put on the back burner, because again,
you have to win.
If Serenity wasn't going to stream, then obviously we couldn't stream, because that all of a sudden we had like tough competition in the raiding scene again. So that was why it was put on the back burner, guys, until like you Preach mentioned earlier in the video, like September 2018.
And the idea of the average WoW player wanting to sit in front of a camera with microphones on all day, every day, was extremely uncomfortable. So it is no surprise that a lot of the guild were against this idea. In September 2015, an announcement was made. A new guild, a new dream was coming. Serenity had arrived, comprising practically
Wait, what is this?
What
is this? Serenity's website says Gul'dan appears to have banished some parts of our website to the battle. Oh, okay. It's about... I thought they were just like doing some epic lore thing, like we're forming to fight the forces of evil. Serenity had arrived, comprising practically all the...
You actually can't imagine, by the way, guys.
That guy.
I don't know, man. Like when the Serenity split happened and they created the new Serenity Guild, like Yeah, it definitely sucked a lot. Like because, like I said, a lot of like players that I played with for quite a few years.
Oh, dude, this must have been the hardest time. I hope he got therapy for this situation. He probably did. Bro, that would have fucked my mental crazy style. Like, bro, just imagine, like, you're like living in a movie, you know, where, like, you're the protagonist of your own movie, probably in your head. And then, like, all your friends said fuck you and made a team to try to beat specifically you. You know? Like, that's gotta weigh on you so much. Like, I don't know how many people could even handle that.
Had actually followed, Kuznam and Cole to create Serenity. And yeah, it
All
really
your boys
sucked. Like,
fucking
it really
leave you.
sucked. Like, obviously, you can imagine like how it felt for me, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was really rough, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, no, quite. I mean, I don't even know how many people could even handle that.
Times.
Former Method World First Raiders, and now including some fresh up-and-coming players who might be decent. They had a chance. They had done
Was
some
that-
good challenge mode times in Mists of Pandaria, like this Gingy guy, whoever he was.
Okay.
Serenity
Wait, was Gingy new in Serenity? He wasn't in the race, but I didn't even know
was
that.
to be a no BS, no fluff, just gamers with skill and experience going in.
What's interesting, actually, guys, is that Gingy, Deep Shades, Fragments, and I think it was Lozelle at the time. They were the first 4 guys to come to Method after the Serenity split. So they were the first 4 that kind of jumped back into Method. Yeah.
To kick ass. This team has everything, right? They have veterans who have a massive history of getting raced to world first. They have seen the light before, and now they're free. They're free of corporate overlords. They're free.
Dude, he's about to get so mad.
I mean, listen, I would hardly call it corporate overlords, guys. This is this is a gross
Jesus.
exaggeration for sure. Like, I mean, yeah, like back then, 2015, like even now, like I mean, it's like
That's
it's
actually
still
insane.
very, very casual, I guess you could say.
Mike's playing it up,
what all
though, I
gamers at the
think.
end of the-
Yeah, but like playing it up is gonna have its consequences though. Like if you're SCO, you're listening to this and you're like, bro, fuck you. You know what I mean? Fucking put his face on Joffrey. You can say all the kind of storytelling you want, and people are still gonna get pissed, right?
Day like this, it wasn't like a corporate environment at all, really. Yeah.
Chasing money as a factor, and they can just get
SCO and Mike are friends. He can take a joke, Lamau. Bro, if I had someone who I considered my friend made a video with me as fucking Joffrey on it, we would have a fucking problem
It was
for
just
sure.
It was just honestly like
We
like
would
friends
100%
and, like,
have a
fellow
problem.
players like playing a game. Like it was
bound to win, right? No. In May 2017, Serenity disbanded, having never achieved that world first that they had fought so hard for. So what happened? Let's start with Serenity. They had an absolutely stellar roster of players. However, you old schoolers will remember the raid drought of Hellfire Citadel. Archimonde fell for these guys in July 2015. We didn't get a new raid tier until September.
That's, bro, I know I lived through this. I lived through the Siege farm and I lived through HFC farm. But just looking at it it's fucking insane. It's insane that bro, people now, like I remember 2 months ago in this season, people are like, bro, where the fuck is the new patch? After like 2 months, they wanted a new raid. And back then, it just took you like more than an entire year in between raids sometimes. That's
2016.
crazy.
that's wild. Actually, I had actually forgotten how long a gap this had been, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
This
it's
is actually
insane.
crazy
People would
to
lose
think
their
about.
minds now.
But obviously, during that time, of course, Method was able to rebuild quite a bit,
Oh yeah, it was probably good for
which
Method.
I guess obviously wasn't bad for us at the time.
Yeah, it was good for you.
Over a year of nothing to do. It was a dark time for us all. Over that time, Serenity
Facts.
lost at least 4 of their world first level healers. Over the
Whoa,
time
whoa,
Serenity
whoa,
played, you'll
whoa.
know-
Serenity lost 4 of their main healers from Method. Bro, that is such a low roll. Like, if you know back then no one's making any money, you're just going to simply have a few people leave after every tier due to pure IRL, like they're done with this, they're over it, they're taking a break, whatever. that's just what happened, right? You low rolling that all of those people happen to be your main healers is maybe the worst possible thing that could happen to your guild. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that was the case. That makes a lot of sense.
Notice strange names appear in their raid frames. I won't say who, but one of these was
Wow.
the infamous mage Kuznam, now playing a healer to cover the losses.
Goat.
It is widely known that at the world first level, healers are insanely hard to come by.
Yeah.
And Kuznam's return
That's never
That
changed
is actually
either.
true, by the way, guys. Healers are really, really difficult to find for in the race world first. Like, getting good healers is really, really difficult. It's something that we've actually worked years on, really, with Method. Recently, even.
time at post, he mentioned that in Serenity
Oh, wait, that's interesting, actually. Let me go back. So this is Kuznam's leaving post, guys. Like, disbanding post with Serenity.
I'm sorry, man.
I remember here, look, let's see.
So good.
To end it off with, thank you to Method for the motivation you brought since we split up, and thank you for our times back in the day before we ditched. Props to you, Sko, for building the brand you've always talked about. I've been in it, and I want to give you a massive kudos of respect to you for not burning out. Like this, I remember reading this, guys, when Kuznam posted the statement all those years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And
What's your-
it was really nice to hear. Like, big respect to Kuznam for, saying this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
enough
true.
time. Enough
true-
time had passed for him to actually process that too, because you have to keep in mind he was probably so fucking mad at him. He was think about this low point in his life, and like Kuznam, you could see as the ringleader of it. Like I mean, I imagine the split of Serenity and Method was like Kuznam versus Method, and everyone chose Kuznam, right? So like you probably have so much natural, totally valid resentment of this person, right? And seeing that guild not succeed was probably very made him feel real good. But yeah, reading this must have been, yeah.
Competitor, like, bowing out. That was very respectful for sure. Yeah, really appreciated that.
mentioned that in Serenity's short lifespan, they had over 50 members of the
Yeah, it's actually funny, guys, that they mentioned this here, like the sponsors that they've had as well with Serenity, because, like I said, they were quite against
And
like
yeah. Like yeah,
sponsor
you
stuff
you
with it.
leave the guild because you don't want anything to do with that, and then you go make your own guild and realize, oh wait, you actually need these.
originally.
Yeah.
But then, over time, I guess
If I'm
everyone
him, I'm
changes
pointing that the
eventually.
fuck out for
Hell,
sure.
realize the-
They even recruited
the need for it, so to
Loz
speak.
of Fat Boss TV. That's how desperate they were. I'm joking. Loz is easily one of the best healers in the world. They just couldn't recover that hole. They were exceptional, though, achieving World 3rd Xavius, World 2nd Hellier, and World 2nd Gul'dan before disbanding.
Yeah, I mean they even beat
What made it-
they beat Method to Gul'dan. Like they were ahead of the guild that they left. They were
Really
better.
bad, though, was on Hellier and on Xavius. They were beaten by none other than Method.
Yeah, that probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, that bro. Method losing or Method beating them in the tier before might have actually been the reason they died. Like if they get world, even if Serenity gets world second on Emerald Nightmare, Trial of Valor, and Nighthold, but they beat Method and all of them, I bet they don't die.
this was an incredible comeback indeed.
But also,
Like,
I'm
it
making it up.
was-
So
Yeah, definitely one for the history books.
How in the hell did Method lose its entire roster and then the very next raid tier beat that previous roster? And do you
Yeah.
know what made it infinitely
Yep.
worse, to pour salt in that wound? When Method did overtake Serenity, Sko sent them this.
Oh my god.
yeah, I mean this is the tweet I remember seeing. I mean, bro, no one has ever felt like as big of a beast in human history than he did after sending this. Cause like, bro, these people are like living in your head like they fucking chose this guy instead of me just to do the same thing. They fucking left me because they didn't want to talk about money and sponsorships, and they just immediately get money and sponsorships and start streaming. And like, bro, they're just the villain in your movie, and you beat them. They had no reason to beat them that fast. I bet no one has ever felt more vindicated.
Yeah, tweet, guys.
Insane tweet too. Just
The
a
gif
good
of
gif.
the Warcraft movie where he offers his hand and then he pulls it away. I remember like talking on
Yup.
Methods like
Yup.
TeamSpeak back in the day about whether I should post this or not. But
Dude,
most
absolutely.
people thought-
Holy fuck. Absolutely you do. Like, obviously you never want to, like, BM or whatever, especially during competition. But after that, oh my god. Just fucking... Absolutely.
be funny, but it was definitely an iconic moment for sure.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
So let's leave Serenity and look at what Method did.
Wait.
So let's
Okay.
leave Serenity and look at what Method did. Sko went on the hunt immediately, and as it turns out, a chance meeting at an airport between Sko and the raid leader of the then World 6 Guild Rapid Eye Movement would change everything.
What? Wait, that's crazy lore. The Method picking up rapid eye movement, randomly Sko met him at an airport? That's real? That honestly just that's oh, someone he said Sko said apparently that's not true. Yeah, I mean okay, well that makes more sense.
After messages
It's
have
fake
been
lore,
passed
fake
between
news.
a lot of potential guilds, the Rapid Eye Movement guild
That's actually not 100% true, right? Like, I actually didn't meet Scripe at the airport. I met Zerps, who was an officer in Rapid Eye Movement.
seemed receptive to a possible
So it wasn't Scripe, but it was I mean, I still think that's like kind of
guild
insane.
merger.
If that's actually
Their
what led to that
leader,
happening,
known
that's
as
pretty
Scripe,
insane.
happened to be passing through the same city as Sko. And so they met and they had a coffee
So this should
together.
be Zerps.
In that conversation, it was decided that Rapid Eye Movement would indeed move and change name to Method, bringing their players you may know like Deep Shades, Revez, Narcales, Noggy, Potter, amongst many others
wow.
with him.
That's crazy.
Method, of course, offered
That's a lot of
management,
good players.
money, and a chance at moving to the big show. And it turned out this Scripe guy was pretty good at raid leading, and he seemingly had an immediate connection with Roger Brown. Maybe they'll be friends one day. In the Trial of Valor, the new Method Guild got their first world first.
Anything you have, boys. Last one. Anything you have.
Good memories, guys.
Bro, if you're
Nice
Sko.
at showing Noggy POV as well, guys. Still
I
Method now.
I wish at one point in my life I'll feel like how he felt right here. Like I bet
At the
no
end of it all, after
no
a
world
decisive
first kill.
victory from-
No single person has ever felt better from a world first kill than he did specifically on Helya. It wasn't like an end tier raid. It doesn't matter. Like he had to have felt more insane than anyone has ever felt.
Their former guild, many of those same
Hey, look, it's Fragment's statement, guys. Hashtag Skull wasn't the problem.
players would end up right back where they started, with that Method name above their heads, cementing them, though, as the dominant world first guild. At least for now.
What?
World first guild.
All right, at least I'm not fucking Joffrey. I'm cool with that.
At least for now.
For now, guys, for now.
So why then?
I'm
did
cool
they
with not, bro.
accept
Someone
all
got
these
labeled as
players
Joffrey in this video. I'm chilling with
back
that.
who had left en masse just 7 months ago? There's a good lesson for us all here. Permanently burning bridges because of a spat or an incident, especially over minor things that happened months ago, isn't a particularly great idea.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's actually... There's no reason why we wouldn't accept back players into Method for the most part. Like, me personally, I don't really hold, like, grudges, so to speak, or, like, I think
Really?
it's like, just in general, I don't really hold...
I mean, you want Method to succeed, but I mean, you could hold grudges. I don't know. I don't know if I'm above that. If I'm in Sko's position and like Serenity's dying and these dudes are coming crawling back to my guild, I might hit him with a fuck off. I don't know.
like a hate or like dislike towards people. I think it's like really unhealthy just from like your own personal mindset side of things. And for the most part, like most of the players, you can understand why they left, right? Like originally to join Serenity, is because obviously the raid leader and some of the core, people that are associated with him, also, left, and so they thought it was their best chance to obviously still compete at the level they wanted to play at. So like no issue really with like the individual players who left. It's understandable. It obviously really, really sucked, and it made me feel like terrible, of course, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Especially
It is what
when
it
the
is. What a
landscape
phrase.
around those frustrations has changed. Let's take the obvious example, streaming. It is a relatively new hobby, but 7 months later, it was taking off in a
Yeah.
big way.
Yeah, this changed so much, guys, over time. You would not believe it. Like, the resistance in the guild to streaming and creating content completely changed. Like, I guess that's also because it was a new guild, right? Like, Method. Was new
Yeah,
at that point in
yeah,
time.
of course. What do you mean? Like, so you pick up this entire guild, you're in charge of them, right? You're the leader of the guild. Of course, they're going to be way more receptive to the ideas of doing that than someone who'd like that guild that had been doing that for a long period of time. Like that totally makes sense.
But obviously, the guys in Serenity adapted to that as well. Most of them over time as well. Like, the mindset around streaming and creating content and working with sponsors, working with brands, like, it took people a lot longer to catch up to what was going on than would have been ideal, obviously, in like the rating scene. But ultimately, everyone did. So big shout out, I guess, to some of the guys who were a little bit earlier in the adoption and actually did, want to create content and do streaming and whatnot. Like I said, it wasn't always the easiest time for them back in the old Method, like pre-Serenity. Like, there was definitely some pretty unfair behavior towards some of those people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And frankly, some of these players were really good at it and
Yeah.
enjoyed it and were having a lot of fun with it. So the idea of streaming the race was not as big of a deal anymore. On top of that, you're aiming for world first, the pinnacle of the pinnacle in a game with millions of players.
Exactly. So, and that was it, right? In the end, guys, like that was also a core part of this, right? Like, I wanted to make sure that Method was going to be world first, like, going forward. Like, that was like my ultimate goal, like, was the competitive performance of the guild, like, and so that was a big part of it, right? Because if we had the best players, we were able to keep the best players around,
Yep.
and we were also able to, monetize in some way that we could also compensate the players, which means they wouldn't want to leave to other teams, or they wouldn't want to quit the game, or like lots of things really. Like, it was just all a case of really trying to make sure that Method was able to support the best players and support the best guild. Yeah, and actually, it's worth saying too, guys, I guess, that just in general, I will say that one of the thing I'm probably proudest about with Method, like,
Okay.
in everything that we've done over like the 20 years of a Method existing, is that we have been able to support like a lot of people in the WoW scene, and other games too, but mostly the WoW scene. Like, in regards to like a lot of the biggest streamers that you even see today, for example, on Twitch, they were in Method at some point in their early days, and we were able to obviously help them
Wait,
turn
word?
their passion into like their full-time thing, and that's something that I'm really proud of, that we were able to
Does
do.
he mean?
And I'm glad.
He means in like the WoW category, I think. But all right, word. That's fine. I'll kind of. I mean, Method was fucking huge, though. That's
That we
facts.
were able to do that.
Refusing the best of the best, the proven, seasoned players, not a particularly good idea. And so, these guys were still playing together. They might not have been in the same guild, but with Mythic Plus coming in Legion, a lot of crossover was still happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to just share an observation that I've had as well, guys, that you don't really realize when you're like super young.
Ooh, okay,
But
wisdom.
Preach
Some
kind of mentioned it a
wisdom.
little bit here too. You don't realize
Little
that
wizzy?
the people like that you interact with, like or the industry or like the environment that you operate in, it's a lot smaller than you think. Like, the same people
Okay.
will often be around for a long time to come, and so it's relationships and treating people like well and whatnot is really important, because you never
Yeah.
know. You
Shit
never
will
know
come
like,
back to you.
when you're going to be like playing with them again or working with them again, or they're going to be in Method again. Like, for example, like I mentioned, Fragnet's joined like 4 times. Like, there's so many of like the old guys that you've seen in this video, even like Noggy, Zalia, and co, that are actually back in Method now. You know what I mean? So it's really important to keep that in mind. Like, yeah, you don't want to burn bridges. You want to treat everyone with respect and treat everyone well
Facts.
as much as best you can.
And they
Facts.
were more than welcomed back after a little bit of a conversation. It's a good thing to happen. However, Noah's no. This wasn't to be the last mass exodus from Method. But that is a story for another time.
Bro,
Until then,
ain't no fucking shot you're making a video about that. That's kind of like a. I mean, actually, I mean, it's someday it'll probably make sense. It's just a lot of. Yeah, that's a hard. That's a. Let's just say that's a hard video to make. I think hard
thank you
video
for
to make
watching.
well.
and I'll see you again next time.
Any response?
Overall, by the way, I think this is a really
Yeah, if I'm him, I'm just fucking moving it right along. Fucking, yeah, good video, guys.
video from Preach. Like I will actually really appreciate Preach doing these lengthy
Let's
videos.
fucking move right
like, I know
along
he did
right
one
there.
about like the world first legit kill on Vash, like back in the day in TBC. I do think this is a good video, so big shout out to Preach for doing this. Like in general, like most of the information in this video is mostly accurate, I would say, with a lot of missing context, of course, right, and maybe some oversimplifications of certain things, but obviously from him being on the outside for the most part, I think he did a pretty good job in regards to putting this video together. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the Preach video, and I thought I would add a little bit of additional commentary, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that too.
Bro, I don't know how the fuck he's not mad. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of who I'd be cool with. Like, I imagine him and Preach are cool. But if someone I'm cool with puts my face on fucking King Joffrey in a video, I don't know. I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Like, so why'd you do that though? You know? Preach said in his reaction that he would cover Josh eventually. Yeah, I imagine if anyone would try to do it, it would be him. I just think that's. I mean, I don't know. How do you make that video? That could just go so wrong. But yeah, I mean, fuck it, do it. I'll definitely watch it, right? But good luck. Lol, why would he be mad? King Joffrey meme, come on, he isn't 15. I don't know, like, whenever you think you're cool with someone, it's like it comes off as fake, right? Like, or it could. I'm not saying this specific situation. But like when you're cool with someone and when they're around you or when they're on camera and then like randomly out of nowhere they come out with some shit like that, you can definitely take it the wrong way. I mean, something like that happened with me and like some people in the race, right? Like I was cool with some dude. I went to his house. And this random thing happened on like Echo's POV. Where they showed Gingy's like wasn't supposed to show this like chat thing. It wasn't, I don't know if it was BattleNet or something else. But like it was just this person and Gingy just like, you know, just the way they were talking about me. I think exactly what was said was oh, I hope you guys win. I can't wait to see that smug look on Max's face get wiped away or something like that. And this is from someone who I went to their house. I had talked to like multiple times. I was super cool with. It's not important who it is. I mean, obviously this information was public, but like I'm not like relitigating this years later, but I'm just giving context to this. Like we were super cool. I saw that message, which I guess isn't too bad on its own. But it just read to me after that I just felt like that person was fake. Like every time they were cool with me, whenever I wasn't around, that's not how they were talking about me. They were talking about me in a different way. And that just made me not really fuck with them anymore, you know? And it wasn't really that bad, but like that. Like, so someone like Sko here could do that. You know what I mean? Like that could be, if you could be cool with someone and then you can get a little jab like that and you're like, that's kind of weird. Like maybe when I'm not around, some people are saying some different shit. You're comparing that to a Game of Thrones meme? I mean, I don't know really either of them very well at all. Maybe they have no issue with that. You know, maybe I'm a bitch, you know? Maybe I read that stuff and I took it too personally and it could have been banter or whatever, but that's how I took it. So I didn't, you know, I didn't really look at that person the same after that. It's just how it is. I have no idea what their dynamic is. What you are describing is way worse. Yeah, dude, there's another element too, because like I obviously approached this person about this. I wasn't like, I was like, dude, what the fuck is up with this? And it wasn't even like, you know what, dude, like honestly, that was kind of fucked up. It was literally like the main defense. I don't know if it was the main defense, but something they said was, because it was shown on stream on accident. They were just supposed to capture his game feed, but for whatever reason, it showed like his display capture, which was where this chat happened. It was like the battle.net window, right? His defense was that wasn't supposed to be shown on stream. And I'm just like, but it was. Like, yeah, like, sure, from your perspective, yeah, it sucks that, like, that wasn't supposed to get shown, but it did. But, like, it did. So, like, here, that's why we're here, you know? And that was kind of tough. It's not a big deal, though. Please don't bring that up. If you guys know who that is, don't. That's some old shit. But yeah. Try to give some context. Might not be super relatable, but yeah. I'll show you some old shit, someone says in chat. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? It means they filled the whole bowl? Damn. Alright, was I gonna do anything else today? I think I was probably hitting the old end stream button, I think. Like, we looked over the raid bosses. This was actually pretty interesting to listen to. I mean, bro, Sko hit me with one of the funniest fucking responses of all time. Can we just listen to it one more time just for fucking, please? Let's everybody fucking lock in.
Give my own thoughts. Hey guys, Sko here, and I thought I'd
Over the course
Here we
this
go.
whole thing.
All right, everyone fucking lock in.
startling moments in
It's
raiding
probably not gonna
history
be that
took
funny
place.
again.
Over the course of 24 hours, the champions, the reigning, dominant, multi-year heroes Method, lost practically their entire roster.
Wait. Okay, let's see. Let's see the roster.
Okay, he talks about all these people.
On a journey.
Okay, here we go.
Just vanished.
Not as good
Today,
as Zelia,
ladies and
though.
gentlemen, we're going to take you on a journey of one of the most pivotal moments in raiding history. This is the beginning of when everything changed.
Fuck, I thought it already. Sorry, I might be wasting our time here.
SAR.
They were the
Here we go. Hit me with that shit.
So what
History is
happened then?
SAR.
They were the champions. There was nowhere else to go. Well, unfortunately, as we have proven many, many times in this series, being at the very high-end mythic raiding guild, whatever, does not make you immune to the same problems that happen in your normal, casual, friendly raiding guild as well.
Yep.
You see, all these things have one thing in common. They're full of people. And people have all kinds of opinions on all kinds of things.
Wait for it.
That is true, actually, guys. There's
I think it's because he says actually. Like, if he just went right into the reason he was talking, but the fact that he had to clarify to everyone that it actually is true that people have opinions.
a lot.
No
All
pause
these
this
things have
time.
one thing in common. They're full of people. And people have all kinds of opinions on all kinds of things.
That is true, actually, guys. There's a lot to be said about managing a WoW guild.
See, there's a lot that goes into managing a WoW guild. Yeah, like he's gonna give some interesting context, but bro, just when he hit that the first time, oh man, that is some fucking top tier shit. Like, there's no way I could make a video and try to do what he just did on accident ever, and it would be as funny as what he just did. That's so funny. Fuck. That's true, actually. You wouldn't believe it. All right, that's it. See ya.